Okay, you're alive.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Long Beach City Zoning Board of Appeals. We'll start with the attendance.
Commissioner Alton,
Present.
Commissioner Creighton, Commissioner Acevedo,
Present.
Commissioner Reckner,
Present.
Commissioner Brooks,
Present.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Present.
Chairman Morelli.
Present. Can we please have the Pledge of Allegiance now? Let's have it led by Commissioner Acevedo, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of
Flag.
Flag.
the States
of
of
the United States of America.
to the republic
And to the
for which it
republic
Which is
stands one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
peace,
and
and
justice for all.
justice
for all.
for all.
Okay. I'd just like to make a couple of announcements before we get started, folks. Tonight we happen to have an unusually long number of cases, which we haven't had in a while. So in fairness to everyone, so that it doesn't run too late and everyone can be heard properly, I would just please be cognizant of the lengths of presentation and comments. Please try not to be repetitive if there are people coming up for or against. We will be, very happy to give everyone a chance to speak as usual. And I just want to make an announcement that on case number 1891, which is the application of Dr. Hal Waldman, I'm personally going to recuse myself from that case, and I'm going to turn that over to Commissioner Leonetti because I got a dog, and now at this point I have started using Dr. Waldman since the last meeting that he was granted his last temporary conditional variance. I got a dog after that, and I have begun using him as a vet. So I don't want any conflict, and Commissioner Leonetti will handle that case. I'm going to shut my mic and camera off for that case. Okay.
Ready? Case number 3181, application of Anthony Massaroni of 106 Pacific Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York: 9-105.6C front yard, 9-1056.D side yard, for a new front porch at 106 Pacific Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 197, lot 21, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
I'll
Make a motion to grant.
Commissioner Acevedo has introduced a motion to grant. Who will second the motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Leonetti has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted. Case number 3182, application of Alfred D. Stefano of 801 East Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York: 13-82A pool location, 13-82D pool location, for a pool installation at 801 East Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 82, lots 1 through 5, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
All right. Good evening, Mr. DiStefano. I see that he's with us. Can we
Hold on,
just?
I have to, let me just get him up here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here.
All right. So, Mr. DiStefano, just give us your name and address for the record, first of all, to start out.
Al DiStefano, 801 East Park Avenue, Long Beach.
All right. So now, obviously, we're here to hear your application for a pool. Interestingly, we understand it's a unique situation. You're on a corner house, so you have two front yards. And as you know, the code location specifies rear or side yards, and you're proposing to construct a pool in your front yard. So your front yard technically is your side yard in a way, and I understand it's on Pacific. you have to maintain 10 feet from the property line, and you're proposing 4 feet from the property line. All right, so the first thing I want to ask you for the record is, what's the dimension of your property?
100 by 100.
And now, will this pool be a built-in pool? I see it's going to be a gunite. I'm assuming it's a built-in, completely built-in, not semi-above ground, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. On the cost of the improvement and renovations, I see a cost of $218,000. You just want to give me an idea of where that comes from? Because it seems like a lot of money, honestly.
All right. It's incorporating the cost of the whole backyard changeover. It's the pool, the wall, the tiling, the pergola, and the barbecue.
Okay. All right. What's the dimension of the pool itself?
Pool itself is going to be 16 by 33.
Okay. What's the depth? 9 feet at the middle?
No, we do max 6 foot.
Okay. Now, is this going to be affecting any off-street parking? Are you going to be removing any off-street parking spots, or because do you have a driveway on that side of the house?
Yeah, it's going to be a wash because right now we have a 2-car driveway.
Yes.
We're going to take that away and create a 1-car driveway. So I'll be taking a space that frees up on the road.
Okay. Now, another question. So basically, the pool, as I see the dimension, what precipitated the closeness to the setback of the 4 feet? You can't bring it any closer over to the house, or is there an issue? I noticed in one of the photographs, there's some wires, and I noticed that there is a, there's a certain amount of restriction sometimes with closeness to wires. So my question becomes, was that a factor in deciding where you were going to put the pool?
Yeah, so I've been dealing with PSEG for the last couple of years, and we finally asked the guy Tom to come out and tell us where we could put the pool.
Right.
It was the only location he would approve it.
Okay. Now, who is Tom?
Tom seems to be the gentleman who works at PSEG that inspects the sites to see if a pool can be installed or not.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. What did Tom say is the distance from the wires that it has to be? Is that 10 feet?
No, on an angle, it's 25 feet.
On an angle. But what about straight up and down? There a
He was
difference?
really talking about the angle from the pool's edge. That's all he
Yeah.
had described to me.
Okay. And that is what dictated the location exactly of the pool?
Correct. It wasn't our first or second choice. It was the only choice.
Okay. Now, did they allow for any kind of covering over the pool if you had to move it closer, like a gazebo? Because I think that some people have done that. I don't know what the options are that you have. I'm just thinking if the pool, could have been put in a different location to not affect the side yard so much.
Honestly, we worked on this since 2016, and because of the power lines that run across the backyard,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one that runs on Pacific, but they're going to move that.
They're going to move it at their expense or yours?
Their expense. That was one of the first process I had to deal with in order to get the go ahead to come to you guys.
Okay. All right. I don't have any questions right now. Any members of the board have any questions for Mr. DiStefano?
There's not a lot of detail on what you're showing us here. What kind of fencing or
Correct.
barrier are you planning between the pool and the sidewalk?
Right now, I'm just here to get the approval from the town if I can build the pool in this location. So then I can start with the permit process. If you said no, then I would stop. But it's a matter of before I go to the architect to get you guys the detail plans. But the quick answer would be there would be a fence. There would be about a 2.5 foot space where we would have hedges or bushes. Then there would come the wall and then the pool's edge.
You might need another variance. I'm guessing you're going to want more than a 4-foot fence.
I think the max is a 6 foot, isn't it, when you have a pool?
Well, the front of the house is if they consider that the front of the house, you might need another variance for that.
All right, that's what I'm here to find out so I can get all the information you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, right now I have hedges there. They're about 7 foot high. So the fence would actually be shorter than the hedges.
Yeah.
Yeah, hedges can be enforced, but they're not as likely to be as a fence.
No. The only problem that I have really is that there are some variables that we're really not able to look at this time. So, Mr. DiStefano, the problem becomes that, let's just say the board were to approve it. We're not really sure what I mean, certainly myself anyway, I'm not really sure what I'm approving. In other words, we would be voting on having a location in a certain area and, let's say giving relief to the side yard setback. But at the same time, we don't actually know if the pool could even be constructed then, if it's going to require other variances then to have the proper height fence and so forth. So I don't know. We'll have to check with, I will certainly have to check with council because I'm not really sure if legally we could really vote on this or if it's something that becomes an issue also with the Nassau County Planning Board, because I think my feeling is that it might require more than one set of variances. In other words, we're hearing a case tonight on a location for the pool, that basically has been kind of dictated by PSE&G, but it's going to also probably, for the code, other aspects of the code, it's going to have to be up from possibly other variance, hearings. Maybe council could weigh in on this at this point. Is this something that we should be permitted to entertain at this point, or do we need
There is
more
a possibility,
information?
like you said, Commissioner. It may require subsequent variances. One thing you might be able to do is keep it open and allow him to supplement the record with a little bit more information on what he's proposing.
Okay,
I know it seems like Mr. DiStefano is concerned about like the financial outlay that he'd have to pay an architect.
I understand.
To the extent he can get you some sort of plan or some sort of idea of what's actually going to go there, it would give me a little bit more information to properly assess the situation.
Okay.
So regarding the fence height, we know that street front is limited to 4 feet. However, what I am noticing is it doesn't look like this pool is actually in the front of the house. It's more the side of the house, but it happens to be a corner. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
2 front yards.
And it's not near the corner. So just kind of taking that into in right now by looking at it. So
60 feet from the curb on East Park Avenue.
yeah, so I don't think, I think that you have to apply for variance for the fence, but it doesn't look like the biggest hurdle. Okay.
That's
But
something.
it should be here though. It should be in your,
I'd like the
application.
building department to weigh in on whatever. is
Yeah.
proposed over there.
They should. Mhm.
Because certainly, Mr. DiStefano would have to apply for a permit, let's say, for the fence. So then it really would be up to the building commissioner to determine whether or not it requires a variance. I mean, we really can't tell him whether or not he needs to come to us until the building commissioner denies it, or approves the fence on its face value. My feeling would be he'd want to deny it, but the thing is, I think procedurally, it just would have to go to him first, even before we could say, well, we're going to hear a case on a variance. We need to see a denial letter.
Okay. Is there any way to get a checklist of what variances I might need so I can do it all at one time?
Well, maybe you can get that from the building commissioner, because honestly, Mr. DiStefano, it looks like to me that, again, we can really only rule on what's in front of us, and if basically we've got factors that we have to weigh, we would have to certainly weigh issues that the building department had denied. It's really not for us to be telling people, yeah, well, you're going to need another variance after this, because really everything that we do or every case that we hear is subsequent to a denial letter from the building department. That's why, everybody's here in the first place. So I would say the best bet would be to have shown the tentative plan to, either the building commissioner or, an assistant commissioner, and they should be able to tell you, because they would be the ones that would be approving it or denying the permits in the first place, before you even came to us.
Okay.
And I would seem to think that that's probably also the least expensive and most efficient alternative. Do you agree, counsel, that that's probably what he should do?
Yeah, listen, the idea is the commissions, the board here might vote yes at some point, right, and say you can build this pool, Mr. DiStefano, but then when you apply for those permits, you might have a rude awakening when the building department says no, because you need variances for the fences.
Okay.
So it might be prudent for you to do it. I can't give you any advice on it. I'm just saying it may be more than just one step here.
That gives me the starting point I'm looking for. So this I knew was just the beginning.
You brought up the point about that currently you have a 2-car driveway, correct?
Yes.
And you're willing to give up one. Is the curb cut a two-car curb cut?
It is, but what's going to happen is because where the pool would be located, we would relocate the driveway and do a new curb cut.
And that'll be a single car curb cut?
That's correct.
So I don't know if that would require an off-street parking variance as well, but it's something to think about.
That's with the same commissioner?
Yeah, the building department could tell you about that, the same thing too.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right. So let's leave it at this now too. Is anyone wanting to weigh in on this case? Anyone in favor or anyone against? Okay. I think, Mr. DiStefano, in all fairness to you, and we understand certainly your plight, I think what I would suggest that we do is that we leave the case open for voting. And perhaps during that time frame, it would give Mr. DiStefano a time to get an appointment to submit some paperwork to the building department. And perhaps we could get some guidance as to whether or not this is something we should vote on or not even. And also at the same time, the applicant would also have an opportunity to see what are the hurdles he might be facing. We've had similar cases like this where, project managers or people came before the board looking to see where, we would stand on something, and not really presenting a definitive plan or sets of plans because they just kind of want to feel out where we're at in terms of them, not incurring any further expenses. But I think it would be kind of difficult for us to vote on something that we really don't have all the information.
No, I completely understand, and I will take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be fair to you, obviously, and at the same time, I understand your plight, and I think it might be in everybody's best interest if we just had a little more information.
Understood. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, good night.
Good night now.
Case number 3183, application of Harris and Eliza Rappel of 255 Grand Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following section of the Zone Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.4C front yard to extend the front porch of 255 Grand Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 4, Lot 59, on Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, good evening. Is Mr. Rappel here?
Yes, hi. My name's Harris. I'm here with my wife, Lisa.
You weren't related to a Lewis Rappel, were you?
Oh, I was.
Is that your grandfather or?
Was my great uncle. My
Okay.
grandfather was Stanley.
I'm sorry, did you say Harris?
Yes.
Harris, okay.
Yeah, he was a very prominent Long Beach fixture many years ago.
Yeah, my family's been out here a while. Just looking to continue on.
So, Mr. Rappel, give us your address again, please, just for the record.
I'm at 255 Grand Boulevard.
Okay, so you're here basically for the fabrication of a deck, open porch, and your deck is going to bring you within 1 foot of the property line. What's the lot size that you have?
40 by 50.
Okay, so discuss the deck a little bit and the open porch. So now, what's going to bring this to the 1 foot? Is this the standard deck that has the footings basically 3 feet from the property line and the deck itself ending 1 foot from the property line?
We actually wouldn't have footings. We're going to cantilever it out so there's no post obstructing any of our neighbors' views.
Okay. Well, there have to be some posts, no? Because what's the dimension of the deck?
Dimension of the proposed deck.
Protruding off the front of the house.
I believe it goes out 3 additional feet from where it currently is. So
I see.
we're looking at a deck of 8'7".
Okay.
Quarter.
All right, so I'm just looking at the plot plan. And basically, at the present time, there is an open porch, correct?
Yes,
Okay. So I just want to clarify, this porch that you would be fabricating would be an extension of that porch, or is that porch going to be changed also?
the porch is going to be modified because right now it's the old style cement that's leaking every which way inside of our house.
Okay. So
So
you're gonna demolish all that, in other words?
we're just gonna excavate a couple of cinder blocks down.
Okay. And then you're gonna put like a Trex or a wood porch directly on top of it?
Yes, we're gonna do like a EPDM roofing material, so everything's watertight, and then decking on top of that.
Okay. And basically, then the cantilever, how much of it is actually cantilevered? In terms of feet, 3 feet, is that what I heard?
Just about 3 feet.
Okay. And the porch is going to be fabricated completely out of that synthetic material, am I correct?
Yes, we're just deciding between the brands.
Okay. So, does any member of the board have any questions?
So the deck will be going over the garage door.
Yes,
That's remaining. You're not lifting the house. This project is strictly the deck. Is that correct?
yes. It's just gonna be replacing the existing. So we're gonna excavate about 2 cinder blocks, then build it back up, just so everything's watertight and just build out from there. So the structure is remaining intact, and we're just extending out.
So it doesn't affect your garage entry at all.
Everything's gonna stay the same with that.
I noticed the deck is extending about a foot or so beyond the corner of the house, towards the property line on the side. Why is that?
Just to try to give us some additional space, where we're a growing family, and especially during these times we're living in, any space is helpful. And right now, we can't even get like a table and chairs out there to have dinner, and with living on a truck route and with no yard, it's definitely become difficult during these times where we're pretty much quarantined at home.
No, I understand that, but the foot or two that you're extending beyond the side of the house, I don't know how that makes that big of a difference, other than it encroaches on the setback, I think.
This is Ms. Rapal. I mean, I believe that it just goes out to the pre-existing side of the house that aligns where our chimney is. So I don't think it goes beyond any of the space where our house is.
Sorry, you just had
Is that the architect?
Yeah, we gave a
That's the project manager in the background, right?
Okay. I see
No, that's the client.
The real client.
Yeah.
I see it aligns with the rest of the house farther back, but I guess that's okay with me.
But I guess the question is, does that extension also is a variance including that? Does that come 4 feet or encroach on the setbacks on that side of the house?
They don't mention it in the denial letter, and it matches where the house is farther back also.
Oh, okay, all right.
So currently the deck, is it closer than the 10 feet as well right now? I mean, is it? I don't think it's 10 feet back right now.
No, it's not.
As the code requires, it's already on the 10 feet, correct?
Yeah, it's already pre-existing closer to the sidewalk, but in the front they're coming another 3 feet or so up to the property line.
Right. Okay.
And Barry and I were talking about the side, and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions on the board?
Rocco, you good there?
Oh, Rocco wasn't listening.
Okay, Rocco, you good?
I think the board has no more questions.
All right. At this point, then we can ask to see if there's anybody who'd like to speak in favor or opposition.
No hands raised.
All right. Does anybody want to make a motion on this case?
I'll make a motion to grant.
All right, I'll second the motion.
Case number 3183, application of Harris and Eliza Rappel of 255 Grand Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, for variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.4C front yard to extend the front porch to 255 Grand Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 4, lot 59, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you, board. Appreciate it.
Case
You're
number
welcome.
3184, application of Megan and Christopher Clinton of 98 Wisconsin Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard to extend front yard deck at 98 Wisconsin Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 235, lot 5, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay. Good evening. Are the applicants present?
Jim or Joanne, are you on for the app?
I'm on, but they're supposed to be here.
Oh, I see Megan Clinton. She should be on now. Megan, are you muted?
She's there.
You just have to unmute yourself, Megan.
Hi,
Hi, Megan. Yes, please give us your name and address for the record, okay? Hi.
sorry about that. Megan Clinton, 98 Wisconsin Street, Long Beach.
Okay, great. So, you're here for your front deck, basically, or an open porch, and you're going to be building this out within 1 foot of the property line. That's the relief you need from the code. So, first things first, what's the lot size that you have?
It is 30 by 60.
Okay, and so now, are you adding something? Is this a lifted house, or this is just a house that you're adding to?
We are adding to. It's not, yeah, it's not fully lifted, but yeah,
Okay, so so you didn't lift the house, it's just existing as is.
exactly.
Okay, and basically, was there any kind of porch present before you started the project, or are you just now adding completely new onto the front of the house?
There's an existing deck up, the higher deck is existing already. We have a smaller deck on the first floor.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
so the first floor meaning what, ground level,
Ground.
or this is how many levels is the house? 2?
Two. It's ground
Okay.
level. Yeah.
So you're coming off the front of the house. What's the room that you're coming off? Is it like a living room, like a den or something?
Kitchen. The kitchen.
Okay, okay. So now, what's the dimension of the deck itself? Do you know, projecting off the front of the house? Do you have any kind of plan, or
You
take
just
your time? Don't
just
panic.
that person before us, and I was like, oh God.
It's all right. Just
At them.
don't worry. No worries.
Presently, it's
Currently, it's about 6.5 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how much are you extending it further than that
Yeah.
to make it bigger than 6.5 feet?
8 feet.
8 feet total.
Yeah.
All right. So just the next question.
Sorry, 9.
The deck is how much? I'm sorry.
It's 9. Yeah.
9. Okay. So the deck is protruding 9 feet from the front of the house. Is it covering any structure? Is it going to be covering a garage? Is it covering anything, or it's just coming straight out?
It's just coming straight out. It covers the little part of our bottom deck, like just the stairs going into the house.
Okay. Now, does it affect any kind of parking issues? Does it cause any kind of parking issues?
That's actually why we decided to do this. We're in a narrow block, which, it's really hard to pull into driveways in the West End. So we really were doing this to create a better parking spot for ourselves. So in order to do that and safely pull into our parking spot, we want to remove that middle beam, which is then causing us to adjust our upper deck. So that's why we were looking to extend slightly, but just to sort of add a little bit more living space, like a table or chairs out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically then, the deck is gonna have some footings, and the footings are gonna be 3 feet from the property line. Am I correct? I'm just looking at the plan now.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to see one thing on the plan. I mean, there certainly isn't a shortage of decks on that block.
And no, I know, and they are out
Okay.
further than ours for sure.
Yeah, looking at the photos. Okay.
Yeah.
So now just a question, Ms. Clinton. Then basically then the deck that was on that first floor that you talk about, that's going to stay exactly the same?
We're actually going to make it smaller. We're removing the whole deck part of it. We're just leaving the steps to go into
Okay.
that. So we can
Okay.
easily pull in a little bit better.
I understand. Any
Yeah.
members of the board have any questions?
I just want to point out the width of the deck matches the house. It doesn't not extend beyond the house like some.
Correct.
Yep.
So I just have a question. It's the middle column that you're looking to eliminate. Is that what it is to pull in the car, pull in and out?
Yes.
Okay. So the obviously, so the 2 side columns stay the same. You take the middle one out. You've got to obviously change the beam design holding the second floor deck, and then in that project you're going to make the deck deeper. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
All right. Any other members of the board? Robin, is there anyone who wants to speak for or against? No.
No, there are no
Okay.
hands raised.
So that's fine. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant.
Yeah, I would second it.
Who made the motion?
Barry, is that you?
I made a motion to grant.
Yeah, and I'll second it, Robin.
Okay, case number 3184, application Ian and Christopher Clinton of 98 Wisconsin Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard to extend the front yard deck at 98 Wisconsin Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 235, lot 5 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Alton has introduced a motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti? Commissioner
Comment?
Leonetti?
I'm sorry, Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you, everyone.
Very welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Okay. Next
Number
case.
3185, application of Joseph and Christopher Ruggiero of 94 Arizona Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard, 9-105.5D side yard, to extend the front yard deck at 94 Arizona Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 240, lot 7 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, the applicants are present.
You need to unmute yourself, Joe.
Okay, present.
All right, good evening, Mr. Ruggiero. Give us your address, please, for the record.
94 Arizona Avenue.
Okay. So you're here for a front deck that basically now you're going to propose the front deck with a porch that's going to leave you a front yard of 1 foot, correct?
Correct, yes.
All right. Now, I think what I want to jump to first, a little out of order, is I want to hear more about the side yard, that, you know, there's this 4 foot side yard requirement, and you're proposing a new side yard of basically a 1/4 of a foot. Can we talk about this first? I'd like you to describe what's going on over there and how we come to that measurement.
When I talked to the architect, because I have a chimney on the side of the house, so he says
that's a chimney. Now, let me just ask you: is this a house that was raised, or new construction, or this is just work that's being done on a house that was as is prior to sand?
Yep, well, it's, Sandy was fixed up after Sandy, and then nothing has happened since then. It's just
And
that
now
this is
fixed up, I'm just gonna stop you for a second. Fixed up meaning raised or just fixed up meaning, renovated?
fixed up. It's renovated, correct.
All right, very good.
And
Okay,
then there's an existing porch, and I'm just basically, extending the porch with a new one.
so now the question becomes, how does it become a new north side yard of a 1/4 foot? I mean, it sounds like, was the chimney occupying that entire space previously at the 1/4 of the foot? Or is this something new that the deck or the part of the front yard, the new construction is now going further to the sides? How do we get to that 1/4 of a foot?
It's going further to the sides.
Okay, and what's the necessity for that?
So that's be able to put furniture and barbecue on the side of that particular area. Storage, basically.
When I look at this photo right here of 94 Arizona, I'll just hold it up to the camera. This is your house, am I correct?
Correct.
All right. So just so I can envision this. So now this deck that is there at present, how is this deck going to be modified? In other words, the north side that I'm looking at is basically the left of the photograph. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. So how far over is that front deck going to continue on past the side of the house? This is on the side that's over the garage. Am I correct?
Yes, correct. All right. So there's going to be a concrete barrier, a little concrete barrier that's there on the bottom. So you can see that the two back posts on the side will be standing in those concrete barriers and extending it out to that point. And if you look down to my neighbor is not a balcony person. They only have the house.
Okay, I just want to see something else in the plan.
Best gist of it will be north elevation on the prints.
What's the amount that you're actually extending out?
Let's see. Side yard. Well, it says here, according to the architect, side yard code allows for a side yard of 4 feet. You are proposing north side yard of a 1/4 foot. So I mean, I'm just a bit short of my property line.
It's about a 3
Right,
foot.
so you,
Rocco. It extends out about 3 feet from the side of the house.
Yes. Yeah. Correct.
I'm still missing the point to a degree about what the necessity of that sideward extension is. I understand why you're going out towards the front. That's self-evident, but I'm not really seeing why we need to go to that side of the house. What is that really going to gain you again? I just want to
Again, I mentioned before I was going to use it as a storage space to put the furniture and the barbecue. Because in the wintertime, we have a lot of problems with the wind blowing the furniture and the barbecue around the deck.
Okay. All right, I understand.
So it's for securing reasons.
Okay.
So the deck not only comes out towards the property line, but it also goes back towards the chimney. I'm trying to figure this out. Maybe another 7, 8.
That's correct.
So it's basically an L-shaped deck.
Yes, correct.
And that L part of it, if you will, is going to be 0.25 feet from the property line. From
me and my neighbor. That's that
right.
Measurement.
Yeah, that's. And the depth of the proposed deck. The depth of the proposed deck.
When there's a staircase on the side, we often extend, the decks beyond the house, but there's no staircase here or anything.
No, there's no staircase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not changing any entrances on the side where you're extending it?
No, there's no entrance. Again, for that side where I'm extending it to.
So what
by-
you're saying is you want to put your furniture into that narrow side space so that when the wind comes off the ocean, it doesn't blow it down the deck. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, correct, because
It'll be
I'm dealing with
pinned
that
against-
constant.
It'll be
Yeah.
pinned against the house. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, correct, perfect. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Anyone else?
And the deck as proposed will be 9 feet deep.
Yes.
Okay. And what is it?
And that side column and deck, does that go to your property line or is that the 1 foot also?
Can you clarify that for me?
Where I see that deck extending past the, is this the south or north side of your house? The north side of your house, right? It's the north side of your house?
Yeah, you're talking about the L part shape of the deck.
So you're on the east side of the street, is that correct?
Yes, I'm on the east side. Yep.
Okay, so with this deck where you extend it out, you have a column under the corner of the extension also, don't you? The drawing shows a column.
Yeah, there's gonna be a column on the front part by the, in front of the garage area. And there's gonna be another column supporting the side L-shaped part of the deck.
And is that column also on the street front area?
The architect didn't draw that like that.
I'm thinking that column that's coming off the corner where you extend it out could be cantilevered both ways. In other words, if you get the right beam under that on both sides, you won't need to bring that column out. In other words, it would give you some clearance on the side of the house.
Right, because of you're correct, because of 2 posts right now, you're going to have maybe 2 feet between the 2 posts.
Yeah, I think you could probably structurally design this to eliminate that corner post, which would be far less obtrusive to the people who are trying to circulate around the bottom of your house.
I'll mention that idea to the architect.
Yeah, I know they can do it. The question is, what beam size will they have to go to in order to accomplish that? But I'm thinking it's possible.
Barry, look at the first floor plan. There's 2 columns on the property line set back, and then the one on the street is like 5 feet from the property line, from the north property line.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you were looking at.
I'm looking at the west elevation. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the west elevation.
Look at the floor plan where it shows the columns.
Floor plan. Hold on a second here. I'm sorry.
Page A101.
If you look at the north elevation,
A101. Take a look. It shows you where the columns are.
A101. Okay, got it. Okay, I see. Oh, yeah. Okay, I see that. Okay. Sorry, yeah. So that far left column is already back at the house. So it's cantilevering both corners. Am I correct?
Yep.
You're right. Good catch. Sorry, I didn't see that this view. Okay.
Barry, can I ask you a question? Those 2 posts on the drawing, they're not really as close as they might appear because one is actually behind the other one, right? They're not right next to each other.
Exactly. If you're looking at the west elevation, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because
one
is actually sitting
back
posteriorly to it, and it looks like they'd be 2 feet apart, but they're really not.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, and I didn't catch that first floor plan until Mike.
Right, and that's on the westerly elevation, right?
Yes.
All right.
the question is still, why do we have to? I understand that we don't want the wind to blow things around, and I get that, but to go 1/4 foot to the property line just to have an additional extension, I mean, in the past we really haven't been going down that route.
Well, I have many problems with the furniture flying around the front part of the balcony. So if I extend it out and hide it into that caddy corner there, then we'll have issues with the barbecue or any of the furniture, and it'll be safe, than flying around the deck because of all the wind.
Yeah.
It's not
But
going to
there's
intrude
really no, there's no other way to
Look at the-
accomplish this, right?
I don't see the decks extending beyond the front of the house for the most part.
Right. Yeah.
They're all within the width of the house.
Yeah, this is kind of different than the typical situation because as Commissioner Leonetti says, basically, the decks that we allow, which is pretty much a standard situation with the raised homes and even the new post-Sandy homes, is very rarely do we have a deck extending along the side of the house or wrapping around. And it's usually only because of a staircase, when the applicant, comes to the board and they need a couple of extra feet to be able to accommodate a staircase. It's usually not a situation like this. I mean, I can't, correct me if I'm wrong, I can't think of any other instances where we've seen anything
Yeah,
like this.
and that's for an existing house that's being lifted and already has a side door that they need to still get up to.
Right.
Whereas
They need to accommodate a side door
Yeah.
to get to.
Yeah, that's usually what that's about.
This is
but if I
something
could
different.
inject that that neighbor next door doesn't have a balcony at all, so the house was a model home, so I'm not intruding into their space because they don't have anything to go to a balcony or deck.
No, we understand. No, we understand it, but then the problem is though that they could sell the house one day, and if the next person that purchased the house wanted to do something like the extension of a balcony or construction of a balcony, I don't want to create a situation necessarily
gone,
where I'm going to preclude this from happening to the next property owner. That's not fair either.
If he did the same thing, you'd have deck to deck.
Yeah, we could connect the decks.
Exactly. Yeah. You
Well,
have to be very close
that's a good
neighbors.
idea for the future. Could be my son one day, the house next door.
Yeah, and when
There
he
you go.
buys it, they'll have one deck. So the thing is, at this point, I think the feeling is that this is a unique, kind of a different situation, and the board might typically approve. We might want to, I might want to sit on this one myself, to give it some more thought. Do we have anybody that is for or against this case?
I would
No.
like to say that I understand the wind thing because I've got a second floor terrace myself, and my when I wrap my furniture up when the awning comes down with tarps, it moves across during big window all the way across my terrace. But I have learned to secure it. Basically,
Yeah.
that can't happen. Now I just have it secured, and it doesn't do that anymore. But I think that if you just wanted the extra space and you simply took that whole side thing out and you just got your structural guy to let you cantilever it to the extent you can, only off the front, but not the side, I think you'd gain a little extra space, and then let the architect design something that will allow you to secure it. When you bundle it
Some
all
kind of post
by
of
there.
some sort.
Yeah, or just structurally secure those posts in a way that, or install them in a way that you can actually, wrap a chain or pull a flexible gate in front of your furniture during the winter when you wrap it all up. It is possible to get around this another way.
I know, but when I talked to the architect, James Joyce, he mentioned that since the chimney, came out on the side more, that you could have more of that spacing because it was part of the house. So that's what he mentioned when we were going through the architectural.
Honestly, Mr. Joe, I'm not really sure that that's really true because, quite honestly, there are cases that we've heard over the years where the chimney or a bump out, the chimney really kind of becomes more of a bump out. I don't know that it's necessarily a part of the house that is considered necessarily the dimension of the house, because the chimney is, even if it's a fireplace chimney, it's generally pretty small. I mean, it's not something that, when you think about the dimension of a chimney and you're boxing it out, it's sticking out maybe 2 feet past the house and maybe, 2 to 3 feet in its other dimension. It's generally not more than that. And I don't know that automatically gives somebody the right or reason to, augment that bump out, of the chimney and then build on it, that's the thing. Sometimes it's enough to just have that bump out. Nobody really notices it. It's not that much of a problem. Now, I don't know if I really want to see, building on that bump out, building and making it bigger, because then it does become a dimension of the house. It becomes quite a larger structure, tacking it on to what it's already sticking out with the chimney. So that's just something to consider. I don't know how the members of the board feel. I don't know if anybody, you said there was no one for or against it. I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to make a motion on the case.
Well, there are bump outs that are not considered part of that dimension, whereas this extension of the deck would be considered.
Right, exactly.
And the chimney's not this deep.
No.
My other question is, how deep is the deck right now?
The current deck, 6 and half feet, something like that. 6.5 feet, a little bit plus maybe. Not. I mean, you have to look at the existing ones to give you an exact amount, but somewhere around there.
Right. I mean, because normally we're at the 8-foot range as far as how deep we've been granting depths of deck, and you're going out 9 feet. Correct? Your new deck will be 9 feet.
Will be 9 feet, correct.
And that puts you 1 foot to the
all the houses are kind of going to 1 foot from the sidewalk. So
yeah, I as far as I'm concerned, the front extension is something that is very commonplace right now, and it's a non-issue. It's a side thing is the issue. You don't really need it, and you could get the architect to design a way to secure your furniture off.
Well, if you guys want to ponder on it, I'm willing to wait on it.
Okay. I definitely don't think the front will be a problem. I think you should have your architect work on an innovative way to do it.
And you know what? If Mr. Ruggiero wants to, Mr. Ruggiero, if you want to do this, let's do this. We'll leave the case open for voting, and during that month's time, you talk to Mr. Joyce, and, we know him as an architect. He's been in front of the board. His designs have been here many times. See if he can design something else. And if you want to submit it to the board before the next meeting, and you want us to vote on that, certainly would be a lessening of impact. We would vote on an amended plan. So maybe just see what you guys can come up with, and perhaps you can come up with an amended plan, and we'll, ask us to vote on the amended plan, and we can do that.
Okay, let's move forward with that.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So then it doesn't sound like we're going to vote on this tonight. Why don't we move on to the next case then? Thanks very much, Mr. Ruggiero.
Thank you.
And, we'll have this resolved for you next month, one way or another, obviously. But, if you propose something a little different, we'll be happy to look at that and vote on that. All right?
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. You're welcome.
Okay.
Case number 3186, application of Southwind Landing of 1051 Oceanfront, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.9E rear yard to extend existing decks at 1051 Oceanfront, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 58, block 87, lot 126 on the Nassau County Land and Tax.
All right. Good evening. The applicants are here at Southwind Landing. Is this the architect, Mr. Joyce, or is this Mr. Masrati is going to be here?
I believe they have a lawyer.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Mr. Azrati should be online too, I think.
they both are, yeah, they're both now.
Okay.
I just need Mark to
All right.
unmute.
So
and
you'll let them both in?
I did. Just waiting for them to.
All right.
unmute.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello? Can you, Steve Kaiser, can you hear me?
Oh, hi. Yes, Steve. Steve, just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Stephen Kaiser, 600 Old Country Road, Garden City, New York. I'm here for the applicant, as stated, for a variance with respect to section 9-105.9E rear yard in order to extend the existing porches 12 in number on the south side of the building, 3 feet 10 inches south towards the property line, which is currently 5 feet and would result in a rear yard of approximately 1 foot or less. The reason this comes about, the condominium is approximately 20 years old and is showing signs of wear. I submitted an engineer's report to the zoning secretary, part of which is the fact that the porches are in a state of disrepair. They were originally pitched towards the building, which resulted in water damage, as well as the facade has been compromised, and they have to be replaced. So the thought is, while they're being replaced, would be to extend them 3 feet 10 inches. Why? This is the only condominium in the West End that sits on the ocean front. And the thought is to get further living space. The current porches, 12 in number, have a depth of 6 feet 1 inch and an approximate length of 21 feet. I've been there many times, and it's very difficult to do very much with the porches, to put a table that you can sit around or a barbecue. To the north of the property is basically a parking lot and garages, obviously not living space. The real living space is here. So to extend south, we'll go towards the property line, which is the line on the beach. If you look at the photographs that were submitted by Mr. Joyce, when you get beyond the wood demarcation of the property line, there's another 3 feet of, approximately 3 feet of sand, and what I would describe as a hurricane fence. This is not out of character with the neighborhood, in that while we're the only condos, there are luxury homes up and down that part of along the beach, most of which have large decks, far greater than what's being proposed here. Aesthetically, I don't think it's out of character with the neighborhood or would impact anyone in any great way. I've spoken to the abutting neighbor on 1 Indiana, who's a client of mine, who has no objection, provided that if the project does proceed, that they put up some kind of a screen that would prevent refuse from going into his yard. He's the most affected neighbor, and he said to me he's not going to oppose it. And essentially, in this time, I realize the pandemic, God willing, will not go on forever, but in this time where people want the maximum use of the property, this has been a long time coming. These are beautiful apartments of great value, and they would like to be able to enjoy them like everybody else does, and we're hoping that the board will entertain this application. Hello? Hello?
Steve, I don't know what happened to everybody else.
I don't either.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I thought you cut me off.
No.
Oh, I think they're coming back on. I see.
All right,
it.
I'm here. I had to step away for a second. My question is, I understand, by today's standards, Mr. Kaiser, 6 feet, it's not really a big deck. And my first question is, underneath the existing deck, and I'm looking at the first photograph supplied by Mr. Joyce on the south view. What are those? Are those garage doors that I see underneath the deck? What is that?
No, the garage doors are on the north side.
Right, I see that. But when I look at that photograph and I look at the decks, and I'll show you the photograph that I'm looking at, okay? I'm looking at this photograph right here. What is this that we see underneath the decks? What is that area? What are those? Are those doors? Are those windows? What are those?
I think it's primarily wall with a few windows. It's hard. I'm looking for another photo.
If I may.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Israedi. Just give us your address, please.
1051 Oceanfront Street.
Okay,
New York.
go ahead.
The condominium is configured living space wise, where the ground street level floor and the first floor is one unit. So those are sliding doors.
I see. Okay.
And the upper floor is a separate unit.
Okay. So my question to you then, Mr. Israedi, I just want to clarify this because the photo's not as clear. So basically what I see, those are sliding glass doors. And what is there? Some sort of stone patio or some sort of patio on the first floor of that duplex?
There is a concrete slab on the ground floor. And then the porch on the same unit is directly above it. Both of them.
Okay, so then the question becomes, we would, let's say, be having you go within about a half foot of that, let's call it the storm fence, the retaining fence at the south side of the property. Now, you're extending about 3.5 feet approximately. So my question is, and I don't know other members of the board, if you want to, get in and jump in on this, is there any kind of compromise? Or right now, the way that these backyards are configured, no one walks through that space. Is that correct? In other words, if the deck was, let's say, extended to within, the half foot of that fence, would that preclude anyone who has any kind of either, let's say, any kind of convenience or conveyance where they're allowed to walk through back there through those yards to get to the condo or to the area next door? Is there any kind of, would that become an encumbrance to anybody who already has a permission, let's say, to walk through that area?
No, not that I foresee, no.
Okay, so
Can I
in other words,
can I clarify one point though? The storm fence that you referred to, because I was there several times, is approximately 3 to 4 feet beyond the property line wall.
okay. And then you have the dune about what? It starts about what, 5 feet or so south of that fence? Because I see the grass from the dunes there. So the dune is about 5 feet, let's say, approximately from that fence, would you say, Mr.
Just
Kaiser?
clarify which fence you're talking about, beyond the wooden wall?
When I look at the back of the house, on the back of the condo complex, okay, and I see this wooden fence right here.
Yes.
This is what I'm referring to.
Okay.
The dunes start maybe about what, about 5 feet south of that?
Yes.
Okay. And so the deck would continue on to about within what, about a half foot of that fence?
No, the deck is going out 3 foot 10 inches from
Okay.
present length to a cement wall that is the borderline of our property. We are
Okay, I
not
see that. All right.
infringing.
That's what I was trying to clarify. If you look at the photo, the gap between like the walkway that goes onto the beach,
Right.
and what you can describe, the wooden fence, that's not the property line fence, that's the storm fence.
Oh, I see.
There's
Okay.
another lower fence, that's the property line.
I see. Okay, you know
The
what?
storm
I
fence is
actually,
3 to
yeah,
4
I do
feet
see the
beyond
part of the
that.
photo. All right, I got it now. I do see that. Okay, so then basically you would be going a half foot from that property line fence. And that property line fence is what, a couple of feet away from that storm fence?
Correct.
All right, I got you now.
It's
All right.
4
Any members of the board have any comments, questions?
So we're adding columns inside the wall. And it looks like on either end, it would make it very hard for anybody to walk from one end to the other. But you said earlier there is no traffic that goes.
No, just residents. And really, nobody walks back there. Everybody respects each other's little space.
Okay.
And you can't cantilever from the existing beam and column? You can't cantilever further?
We're not quite sure. Jim, are you on the phone?
I'm pretty sure you can go out a few feet from that column.
Yeah.
If you're redoing it, you can.
Yeah. I'm hoping that we can.
I don't think you need the outside column is what I'm saying. I think you can cantilever out. It should be a lot less,
intrusive,
obstructive to the base path.
Okay.
I'm quite sure you can cantilever that further.
I'm not so sure that it would be very feasible, Barry, without tremendous extra expense.
What they're doing the entire deck over. This isn't like just adding on. That this is
like an extension.
It's a full reconstruction of the
Yeah,
deck.
Mr. Kaiser, you're taking those decks are completely coming off the building. Is that correct?
We don't know as of yet whether we're going to sister into the existing steel beam that runs the length of each building at approximately the outside portion of the deck.
Okay.
If you can safely and efficiently and economically sister into that beam and extend the porches out,
I understand.
that is one option. Another option is to build another footing and put another stone support there to help offset the new.
Now, my
design.
question on Mr. Osrati, the comment was made earlier that there was a negative pitch of those decks back towards the building, which enabled water to pool up against the building, and I would imagine probably started destroying and compromising the stucco. But now, if you sister in, will you be able to change? How are you going to change the pitch of the existing deck that's closest to the building already? Because that seems to have been a problem for you folks.
It is. The architect, Mr. Joyce, will evaluate the current status.
Okay.
And I'm
Because
hoping,
what I'm getting at is that, let's just say you sister in and you extend the deck out 3.5 feet. It would seem to me that, with any kind of precipitation or snow accumulation, you might only be exacerbating the situation by now having this much more volume of whatever water is ice, whatever it could be, sliding back towards the building. I mean, I don't know
correct.
if he could fill it up and pitch it the other way, without taking those decks off the building. I don't know.
I think it has to be repitched, and I think that sounds
Right.
like it's the purpose of this project, which is why it seems to me that there'll be enough reconstruction that you should consider a cantilever. That's where I was coming from.
Okay.
This is Steve Kaiser again. I've spoken to Mr. Joyce several times, and the most likely scenario and the most probable scenario is that they're going to remove the porches.
Okay.
They're not going to just extend, assuming they're allowed to.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not just
That
going
was
to
my
extend. It's
understanding.
not
No, it
going to
almost
work.
just seems like, from a cost-effective point of view, trying to kind of patch it up and build around it, might really, in the long run, really not be that great an idea,
I don't even think that's what's contemplated.
Yeah. Okay.
You know
All
what?
right.
If you do that, you could do away with the middle columns. You could just go from the column against the building to the new column at the end. So
Yeah, in either case, yeah. Unless, of course, they're required to support the roof ultimately. I don't know what's going on with that top column, but I hear you. That's, I think this could be structurally enhanced a little bit. I really do. I don't think a slight extension would be a problem, but I do think it could be done smarter.
okay.
Are there any other comments from the board members? Would anybody like to be heard from the audience?
No hands raised.
No hands? All right.
No.
Does anybody want to make a motion on this, or do you want to wait? How does the board feel?
I'd like to see just some additional comments from the architect and what they can do. Since this is a full demo and rebuild, I think they could do a better job. He should get a structural engineer to consult him if he can't see it himself.
We did submit an engineer's report.
Yeah, I submitted that to the board.
All right. I mean,
the conditions of the existing, right?
Hello?
Hello?
yes.
Hi, Joanne Alvino. I'm from James.
Address,
Lake
please,
Law.
Joanne.
41 Georgia Avenue, Long Beach,
Okay.
New York, 11561.
Yes.
I could be wrong, but I do believe there is already an engineer on board, but he wasn't doing anything with structure until the plans were approved.
Okay.
That is, Jim is not next to me for me to ask that, but I'm almost certain that the structural engineer who did the original report, after the plans were approved, they would have done what they had to do at that point.
So, I mean, if the structural engineer is going to be involved, they should propose just a way to make the structure a little more efficient. That's all. A few
Yeah,
less
okay, I wrote that down. Yeah.
Okay, I think there's a better way to do it. That's just plain and simple.
I think the engineer would probably want a decision as to whether or not it's okay to extend the deck the distance that they're talking about. At that point, the design could follow. But I think it makes sense for him for them not to spend money on him until there's a decision that it can go that way.
I can see that. So the question is, I mean, but then that would be a conditional, decision on what they can do structurally to make this better, right?
Is it possible for us to say that we're entertaining the dimensions and would like to see structural details?
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible. I don't mind that
I'll
approach.
find out.
Okay.
All right, so it sounds to me like we're going to hold this case for a vote. The case will remain open until voting. If any, Mr. Kaiser, if you want to submit any additional information, of course, the board is going to look at it. I mean, basically, we don't really want to force anybody into running any additional expense. If it's a question of, just will the board allow 3.5 feet? I mean, I don't think that that's too big a problem, but I think that the board would like to see just a little bit more information as to what they plan on doing with this, with this deck. So,
I mean, we, of course, we'll always be guided by what the board, is willing to approve, but the 3 feet, 10 inches is, it's really not very usable for the people who live there.
No. Listen, we totally understand your reasoning. I mean, and I think I prefaced this when I first started, that in light of today's usages, we would grant you that 6 feet is not a whole lot of space. I mean, maybe in years gone by, 6 foot was, a deck, but I think people are, in light of how much they're spending on building these homes and the taxes, et cetera. I understand, we're not unsympathetic to the plight of people in their investment and trying to maximize their space.
And I'm not suggesting that the decision has to be rushed, but there are some, considerations, I suppose, of getting this project started also.
Yeah, you want it done by the summer. We get all that. We're not looking to slow that down.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question so I can bring it to Jim? What you, Commissioner Alton, what you want to see is less posts down below, possibly more of a cantilever.
Yeah, more of a cantilever would be great. Yeah, I think it would be more efficient and nicer for the entire field for everybody, even like across the road, their aperture from their houses.
Well, you know what it is? Barry, this is my feeling. My feeling is, when you've got a single family home or a 2-family home and you've got an overabundance of posts, sometimes like in some of the cases that we've heard, it's one thing, but then when you have a condo complex and you've got a row of posts, all attached, it's a whole different look.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
All right. So, the case will remain open until voting. We'll move on to the next case. I think this is the case where I'm going to recuse myself and Commissioner Leonetti is going to take over.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, folks.
If you could just restate, I know we stated at the beginning, just restate your the basis for your conflict before you sign off.
All right. Yeah. Since I believe that Dr. Waldman comes up here every 2 or 3 years, and since he was last here for the last case, which I did hear and we did approve, I got a dog, and I started using another vet, but in an emergency, I started using him. And then I decided to continue using him as a client. So I don't want to have any conflicts. And so I'm going to recuse myself from this case.
Thank you, Chairman.
Case number 1891, application of Dr. Hal Waldman of 401 West Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.1A use, 9-106.2 mixed use prohibited, 9-11214 off-street parking, for renewal of a conditional temporary variance to use the premises as a one-family dwelling and a veterinarian's office at 401 West Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 37, lots 42 through 45 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Mr. Kelly, are you representing the applicant?
I am Mr. Leonetti, and good evening, Dennis G. Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Suite 311, Long Beach, New York, 11561, here on behalf of Dr. Hal Waldman.
Okay, so this is a application for a renewal. Can you tell us what you're prepared to tell us?
Sure. So I've represented Dr. Waldman now for a number of years. In fact, I believe this is the 4th time I've represented him in making the 2-year special use temporary permit. The special use of the veterinarian's office at 401 West Beach Street, a single-family home in which Dr. Waldman, his wife Penny, and his 2 children live. Throughout those various hearings and resulting in variances in 2015, 17, and 19 before this very board, Dr. Waldman was granted the 2-year special use permit to run the veterinarian's office with certain conditions. He's complied with all the conditions. Some of you who were on the board as early as 2015 remember we had an extensive hearing in which maybe 100 people came up to speak in support of Dr. Waldman. And he was thoroughly scrutinized to the point of having to proffer evidence to the board as to what crematory services he was using and what medical waste services he was using. And he's still using the same crematorium, and he's still using the same medical waste services. He's also not doing invasive surgeries at the office, and he does not administer any general anesthesia at the office. So all the conditions that have been discussed in the past are still being complied with through to this day. So we respectfully ask the board to grant again another 2-year special use permit with the hope of seeing you in January of 2023.
I was on the board when the case came up initially, and I still remember it because there was many people, like you said, it went on quite a while. It was an interesting hearing. You answered my first question, which was going to be how many extensions has the doctor gotten so far? So it's 4. How long has he been in practice at this location? Was he here before these variances, or?
Yes, I believe he might have had, Mr. Chairman, I think he might have had variances prior to 2014. He's been running the office since at least 2006 and has owned the office and the home since, well, the home since 2000. And I think there must have been a change in the law. At least there was, if I remember, having served with the board 22 years ago. It's hard to believe. We typically didn't grant special use temporary permits of 2-year durations. So I think that was something that was relatively new to the board. And I think the first time that he applied for that 2-year permit was in 2014. Okay. But he's been operating the office since at least 2006.
Okay. So you touched on this already. Has anything changed in the doctor's practice since the last 2 years? Or is there anything of significance that we should know about that would affect this conditional temporary variance?
No, I have Dr. Waldman here with me, sitting in my office, and the answer is no. I've gone through it completely with him, giving all the notes and paperwork I have in my file.
Okay. Is there any questions by anyone on the board, or Dennis, or Mr. Waldman, Dr. Waldman?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this application for renewal?
There are no hands raised.
I just have one question, and this is not an objection at all to the practice going on. It's because it's a resident and you don't have like a parking area, or like Dr. Radner has that fenced in area in the front where the dogs can linger while they're waiting to go in and pee or do whatever they have to do. Do you have a relationship with your clients that advises them just to be respectful of the neighborhood, the property? Because that, I know, was one objection by a neighbor that we all know once regarding this becoming a nuisance to her front yard.
Hi, yes, so I'm Hal Waldman, and I was on 401 West Beach Street. I really feel that it's very important that all the people in the neighborhood have a right to have a clean property, and they pay taxes.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying, do you have a relationship with your clients where they understand that that's something that you are sensitive to, that you are sensitive to?
Well, yeah, I asked them first. I do ask them to please walk their dog and relieve themselves before they even come over to the office, before they park in my house. And I asked them also to park in the front of my house, and They're really, they have to clean up after the dog. If anybody had a problem, they would ask me for a bag, or I would go out and clean it up myself because the
Okay, that's all I'm asking, that you make it clear and that you accommodate them, the bag and all that. That's just, I just wanted to ask that question. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak? I'm sorry, you're done, not done, Dennis?
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak against the application?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. All right, anybody on board like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant.
I'll second the motion.
Erica, was that you who made the motion?
Yeah, both, I did and Esteban at the same time.
That's fine.
Do I?
Who made the second?
I'll second the motion.
Case number 191.
There's your second.
That was Dr. Wallman's client barking right
That's
here.
the timing was perfect.
I guess she would have phoned for. Goodbye. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to mute for a second. I guess Dr. Wallman's
Is that the
client
dog
must have
outside
gotten
of your
excited.
sidewalk, doctor?
Yeah.
I get some training on that.
She said she'll definitely curb herself on the side.
Okay.
Okay. Next case.
Number 189. No, let's do the vote on this one. Case number 1891, application of Dr. Hal Waldman of 401 West Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.1A use, 9-106.2 mixed use prohibited, 9-112.14 off-street parking, for a renewal of a conditional temporary variance to use the premises as a one-family dwelling and veterinary office at 401 West Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 37, Lots 42 through 45 of the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Reckner has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Alton has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli? Oh, never mind, you're recused. This application has been granted.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Too funny.
I'm sorry, folks. She's not giving it up.
Is that a COVID dog by any chance, Rocco?
Right. Yes, Dr. Mormon got approved. Goodbye. Okay.
Dennis, before I call the next case in, is your client on and wants to speak?
Well,
Or he's with you?
He's next to me. If the board
Okay.
wants to hear from him, he'd be happy to speak.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Case number 3187, application of Castle Quality Homes Incorporated of 354 West Market Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance following sections of zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2B height, 9-105.2C front yard, to elevate the existing two-family house at 132 West Fulton Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 67, Lot 121, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Dennis Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Suite 311, Long Beach, New York, 11561. Here on behalf of Castle Quality Homes, with its principal, Chuck Princiata, with me this evening from my office.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kelly.
Dennis, I'm sorry, can I have his name again?
Chuck Princiata, Princiciotta.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Mr. Kelly, then let's look at the items of the code. We have a front yard variance issue. And can you describe what's the necessity of that now?
So there's a pre-existing 12-foot front yard, and now we're asking for 6 feet because we're installing a staircase that will lead from this elevated house to the front yard. So it's the staircase that's triggering the additional 6 feet. And
Okay.
then, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
And then at the other variance, we're asking for 1.6 feet in additional height above the allowed 25 feet. You may remember this was a piece of property in which myself and Mr. Princiata came before the board in I think March, March or February of 2020, asking for a subdivision and a variance to build two-family houses, one on each new lot. The board did grant it with conditions, and those conditions being that it could be subdivided, but we'd have to build one house on each lot. Mr. Princiata, doing a cost-benefit analysis to determine what to do, had decided instead to renovate 142 West Fulton Street, which started in September of 2020, once he was granted his Nassau County license, contractor's license. He's been a Suffolk County contractor for years. Once he received the license, he began work on the premises to renovate, and was working in the foundation on a very rainy day in September, and part of the foundation collapsed, requiring an emergency permit to be issued by the building department to elevate the house and excavate the foundation. And that's why some of you, if you've driven down or walked down West Fulton Street, the 100 block of West Fulton Street, the house has been up in the air for a while, because once the house was lifted for the purposes of taking out the foundation, Mr. Princiata submitted the plans that you have in front of you through his architect, Mr. Higgins, and is now elevating the house because of the collapse of the foundation. So the 1.6, the 1.6 or 1 foot 6 inches of additional height has been triggered by virtue of the fact that we're elevating the foundation enough to accommodate a 2-car garage underneath. So, and it is not out of the character of the neighborhood. I've submitted, I believe, 8 photographs for you. You'll see some of the houses that Mr. Rector built on the block. You'll also see, I'm trying to give you a perspective, a photograph looking from east to west along that same side of the block, the even side of the block. And you'll notice if you look past the houses, the front yards are all rather small. Some of them are barely 8 feet, and some of them are less than that if you consider their staircases. You'll also notice that you can see just the tip of the house in the distance, 4 or 5 houses down, maybe more than 5 houses down. Once that's lowered, it should be relatively, believe it or not, it should be relatively consistent with what's there on the even side of the block to start with. I also added one other photo, and that's a house that's on the odd side of the block all the way towards Magnolia Boulevard that's very large. So as far as being in the character of the neighborhood, it definitely is at this juncture. It's also not detrimental to any other properties because it's got the double lots, basically. I mean, it's a very wide property. The size of the house can easily be absorbed and accommodated by virtue of the size of the property itself.
Mr. Kelly, I just want to interrupt for a second. What is the size of that property again?
This was 60 by 100. So 75 by 100, right. So I think the board granted us the subdivision because we were closer above what's required for the width of the lots back in March.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, please.
So I'd also submit to the board, it's not a substantial variance. There's no other feasible way of doing this if you want the two off-street parking spots underneath the house in the 2 garages. And it's not a self-created issue simply because, I mean, the foundation collapsed, if you want to consider that self-creating. And so I respectfully ask the board to, grant these variances for both the height and the front yard setback.
Mr. Kelly, what's the front yard setback right now, please?
It's 12 feet, Commissioner Acevedo.
Now, Mr. Kelly, so basically what we're going to have here is we're going to have a 2-car garage under this house?
Yes.
Okay. And basically the home is lifted, but in no other dimensions other than this. Is the home being changed?
No, I don't believe so. It's presently a two-family house. It always has been. It's going to continue to be a two-family house. If you look at the plans, and I actually had to have Mr. Pinciata explain this to me, I couldn't find a second kitchen to the second floor. That's actually it's an apartment duplex. Front of the house, and this is the way it's always been, the front of a house on the first floor has an apartment which then leads to the second floor. So the kitchen's actually on the first floor. So you can see two kitchens on the first floor.
Okay, so just to get it straight then, a half of the first floor is its own self-contained apartment. Where's the entrance to that apartment going to be? Just through the front door as well, or is it a side door?
Up the proposed stairs. Up the front steps.
Okay, and then the second apartment basically has half of it being a kitchen. I'm sorry about the dog. The other apartment has the second kitchen that belongs to the duplex above it, correct?
Yes.
All right, that's fine. All right, go ahead.
Is the existing, the garage, existing garage still there?
It's still there, and it's going to be used for storage.
So what's causing the reduction in the front yard setback right now from 12 to 6 feet?
So when you know, you've seen plenty of these, just picture it, it's going to be an elevated house. I mean, the foundation will be 8 feet tall, so it's just the stairs that are going to lead from the floor.
You need more steps to get up there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Okay.
I do.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Because like at this point, I think it's pretty clear. I think I'd like to hear from the audience if anybody'd like to speak in favor or against. Robin, anyone there?
There are no hands raised.
All right, fine. Anybody want to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to grant.
All right, I'll second it too.
Was that Barry and Rocco, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Case number 3187, application of Castle Quality Homes Incorporated, 354 West Market Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2B height, 9-105.2C front yard, to elevate the existing two-family house at 142 West Fulton Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 67, Lot 121, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Alton has introduced a motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant. Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Gonna want to get to this. Okay. Case number 3188, application of Stephen Barkis of 106 Indiana Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113-2G off-street parking, 9-113-2H off-street parking size, for new off-street parking in the front yard at 106 Indiana Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 96, Lot 1, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, are the applicants present? Mr. Barkis?
Should be up there. Hold on.
They're coming up or no?
Yes. Hold on one second. Okay.
He has to unmute
Steven,
his
you have
mic
to
also.
unmute your phone.
I think his mic is muted.
There it
How's
is.
that?
No,
Is
he
that
can-
better?
Yes.
Yeah,
we can hear
okay,
you.
that's Mr. Barkis, right?
That's me.
All right, hi, how are you? Give us your name and address just for the record, please.
Stephen Barkis, 106 Indiana Avenue, Long Beach.
Okay, great. So you're here for the off-street parking, both to create an off-street parking generator in the front yard and also because the deficiency is in the width of the parking spot. What is the dimension of your property?
It is 30 by 60.
Okay, so now the question becomes, on your side of the street, there is parking on Indiana on both sides, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any kind of curb cut at present in front of your home?
No, there is not.
Okay. Are there curb cuts on the adjacent homes? Do you have any raised homes next to you?
The home next to me, I would say, is partially raised, and then there are raised homes on the street.
So
that
I'm
look like a-
assuming then that your home at 106 hasn't been raised, right? You're still,
No, it is not. No.
okay,
It
you're
has
in a
not.
one-level bungalow?
Yes.
Okay. So now the question is that you're gonna have to make a curb cut, right? You're gonna have to prepare a curb cut that doesn't exist at present, am I correct?
Correct. On Park Avenue side, where right now there is no parking on the south side there of Park Avenue.
Okay, so your house is on the corner then, right?
Correct.
All right. So on the south side of Park Avenue, you're gonna open it up and you're going to have a curb cut, and then you're gonna park a car in a 5x20. Yeah, I'm trying to envision the 5x20 though, because it does seem kind of narrow. You're talking a 9 foot is 90, is what, 108, and you're talking a 6 foot, 60 inches. It just does seem a little narrow. Maybe you can explain that, because most cars are wider than 60 inches.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the 5 foot is the distance from the wall of the house to the property line.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure if you see picture number 2.
Let me
You see
look at that
picture
again.
pack? It's what the house looked like when I purchased it.
Okay.
It has a planter in that spot.
Okay.
And you'll see an extension of, and it even shows it on the survey that I left you guys. The planter extended out beyond my property line onto city property.
Oh.
Do you see that on the survey?
I see it. Yeah.
So the 5 foot width would get you up to the edge of my property, and then it's about 3 feet where the planter was. That planter has since been removed on my own. I did that without, not at the request of the city. And if you go to picture picture pack number 1, you can see what the property looks like now without the planter there. If that makes any sense. Probably 1C is a better picture to look at.
So what, in picture 1C, what's the space or what's the width?
Do you see the new cement? The new
Yes,
cement that was
yeah.
there? That's
It's gonna-
8 feet now. That's 8 feet.
8 feet to the property line from the
No, there's
property
8
line
feet to the sidewalk.
to the
It's
sidewalk.
It's 3 feet beyond the property line.
Yeah, it would go 3 feet beyond my property line, and the 3 feet would sit on city property until it touches the sidewalk at 8 feet.
So you're kind of looking for an easement for opening your car doors, what you're saying.
Well, yeah, the cars that I own, one of them's just a little over 5 feet, and the other one's just under 6 feet. So, basically the car would sit there without getting anywhere near the sidewalk.
So where your house, I'm sorry, where your house is right now, Park Avenue heads east right there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So how are you getting your car in and out if you were to have that space available?
I'm asking for permission to put in a curb cut between those 2 trees.
But then you
Like,
wouldn't
you'll
even
have
go.
to parallel park on the sidewalk.
Yeah, you would have to go in through the curb cut. I just want to visualize this, Mr. Barkis. This is now a situation where you're going to turn in from Park Avenue into the spot.
Right.
And then when you turn into the spot, obviously you're not going into a driveway or a garage where the car is just going to go straight on in. Now you got to swing the car around, and you got to parallel park that car against the house. So basically the car would end up looking like the planter, in other words, the side of the house.
Exactly.
Right.
And there are other pictures in picture pack 3A where you see other people along Park Avenue, that's the way the car would sit. Similar to what you see in the pack of pictures labeled number 3.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the car, I look at 3B, and I look at, that Jeep, for example, sitting there, and I mean, I don't know if that's even legal, the way they
No,
park
that's
that car.
terrible. That was only an example.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying,
there's actually
but I'm
3
saying
cars.
like even 3C at 104 Michigan, right? I'm looking at that, I don't even know if they should be parking a commercial vehicle there in the first place.
Of course not. No.
No, the other one, 3D. I mean, I think that every one of those situations, 3E, 105 Wyoming, I'll be honest with you, I think that in every one of those situations, not only is it probably not legal, it's pretty unsightly. I mean, the way those cars are sit. I mean, I don't know that, the building department is even aware that those cars are even being left like that, but I don't think they should be.
I kind of agree. That's what seems so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems so, how do members of the board, I want to hear from the members of the board on this.
Of the pictures that he submitted, 3A fits the nicest, in the nicest way, but your car wouldn't fit like that. And again, as to Commissioner Rocco Morelli's point, these may not even be legal.
They're probably not legal. And
Yeah.
in the front yard, it's like a driveway where the car is perpendicular to the road. Where there used to be a garage, perpendicular. When we try to jam the cars in next to the building here and parallel park them.
Yeah.
To me, it is unsightly. Plus, I don't know how we can approve a variance to park on city property. I mean, his car won't fit on his own property.
The other thing is too, I'm a little concerned myself personally, and how you folks want to weigh in on this. I'm a little concerned about, for Mr. Barkis too, the fact that, these other cars that I'm pretty sure they're not legal, the way they're parking. And the thing is, when you think about it from a safety point of view, it's like now you got your car parked. Okay. So now you walk over to your car and, you get in the car and now you've kind of have to like back the car up on Park Avenue sidewalk, let's say. And now you got to kind of swing it around, not hit the house with the tail end of the car as it's swinging. And then you got to get it out onto the street on Park Avenue. I mean, unless somebody's just going to ride it along the sidewalk, which would probably be, what some people would do, ride it along the sidewalk and then pull out right off the curb at the next street. I don't really see how people could like clearly, parallel park that car and then, get in it, then back it up to the point that they can access that curb cut. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, how do you folks feel about it? Because I'm having a tough time actually in visualizing how someone would actually be getting back onto the street with it. And the curb. Go ahead, sir. No, go ahead. Let Mr. Barkis. He was going to make a point. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I did park up there using going over the curb because I wanted to see is this even possible to do? Because I agree, it looks like too many maneuvers to try to get into that spot. And it really isn't as tough as it looks. If you come in from going east on Park Avenue, and it's almost like entering a driveway, like a circular driveway. You go up onto the curb cut.
And you'll be driving on the sidewalk.
Well, not just over the sidewalk to get to that spot. Not necessarily over, not along the sidewalk, but doesn't every curb cut involve driving over a sidewalk? When in order to get to your driveway, I mean, you have to do that one way or another. So
but usually
I'm just saying I've done it and I wouldn't be asking for it if it was something that looked like it would be too many maneuvers or dangerous to pedestrians on the sidewalk for some reason. And I honestly have had people, like when I'm out on my deck, they'll walk by and say, "Hey, how come you don't park your car over there?" I said, "Well, I have to get a variance for that. I was denied a permit, so I need to get a variance." And most of the neighbors, most of the people that walk by the house, consistently tell me, he's like, that's just a perfect spot for a car. Let me tell you. So from the information that I get, it's not as unsightly as you might think, and it's not as difficult to get in and out of that spot as it looks from the pictures. I guess the pictures aren't really doing it
If I
justice.
may, sir, I would like to understand. I'm looking at picture 1C.
Okay.
Okay. So, and of course, when we go into our driveways and into our garages, we cross the sidewalk. But if I'm looking at picture 1C, and that car that's shown on that street, he's heading east. Is that correct?
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So how are you getting into this spot here? First of all, you have to come onto the curb cut.
Right.
So somewhere, how are you getting on the sidewalk or into that spot without actually driving on the sidewalk? I'm not talking about just crossing the sidewalk. You're going to be driving on the sidewalk.
You've got to parallel park on the sidewalk.
Right. And not only that, you're holding up traffic. It's a disaster in the makings.
I respectfully don't agree with that. It just,
So please explain to me how to park there with the way 1C is showing.
With respect to that car coming eastbound, at that point, right, the second tree in the road, that's where the curb cut would start. It would be in between those two trees, the first tree and the second tree. So that's.
But now you have to reverse out, and you're going to have to wait, I guess, for a pause in the traffic in order to even.
Like everybody else does on Park Avenue when they reverse out of their driveway. If anything, I'll have a better view of traffic because the back end of my car will be facing that way. I mean, doesn't everybody back out of the driveway and you need to wait for no cars to come and.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. Of course, you have to. There's two maneuvers to get in. Like I said, I did it by going up the curb. You pull onto this new cement that's there. You pull up to the white fence, and then back it in with a. I guess it's a motion like a parallel park, but not exactly because you're almost in the spot when you get up onto that cement area anyway. It just requires you to back up towards the deck of the house there. So it's a pull in and back up, and and in order to get off it, you pull up and then back out. So it's not as many. I did want to try it, so I mean. And that's
we get it. I mean, I get the challenge because everybody in the West End, most people have lifted their houses now, so all the street parkings have been eliminated with curb cuts, and that makes it harder.
Yeah, it's a problem. There's no question.
Harder and harder for people who've not lifted. I totally get that.
Right, and I'm sure parking. I was going to bring that up about parking being is limited. It's and. Any chance to get another car off the street down here in the West End, you think would be a good thing. I know I have the fire department right across the street from me. The down on the West End there, that big fire department that's there.
Yeah.
And I know, them trying to get around that corner from Indiana Avenue and into their driveway. That's probably my car sitting right there in 1C. If you see it at the corner of Indiana and Park. I mean, it's a job for emergency vehicles. I'm just saying another car off the street would be a help for sanitation, for emergency vehicles, things like that.
If your car is not there, somebody else's would be.
That's true. I mean, I can't argue with that. That's certainly somebody else will take it, and there'll probably be
No, but there'll be a curb cut there now, so there'll be one less spot.
Well, there's no parking where that curb cut would be.
There's not. Oh, there's no parking on that side?
East, that side of Park Avenue, there's no parking.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
But there are driveways that lead into, raised houses or other driveways there. A curb cut is not unusual.
Is that a curb cut in front of just to where the last tree is? It looks like there's a curb cut.
That's my neighbor's driveway. Yes, that's not my property.
I know, but it looks to me like that would be the much easier way to get in.
Yeah, but she won't let me use it.
I see.
And she checked with her insurance company and they advised her against it,
No, I could see that. And if you did it long enough, it probably would be deemed an easement.
Adverse possession.
Yeah.
Um,
I get a lot of problems. I get the parking situation because I've lived in a situation in Long Beach where I had no parking and it's horrible. I know.
Yeah.
I don't know when you bought the house, but the planter was there, obviously much more sightly than a car jammed in there. The second thing is you're on city property onto the sidewalk. I don't even think we could give a variance for that.
If I could answer both those questions about as far as the unsightliness, the planter with all the beer cans and garbage that are thrown in there on the weekends, it really wasn't very sightly to begin with. What you're seeing here now and a car sitting there is a lot more sightly than what the planter was with weekend garbage, beer cans, drunk people sitting there in the middle of the night, talking to each other, which is right underneath our bedroom window there. So that was one of the big reasons why we needed to get rid of that.
My entire question mark here is whether or not we're posing a safety issue at all between it's not like you're going in perpendicular on a sidewalk. You're going to be parallel parking on the sidewalk. And then you're going to be opening your door onto the sidewalk because there's no way you're going to get out of there without the door opening into the sidewalk, right? So those are the two things that I'm pondering here. I get the desirability of having this flexibility in your situation. I totally get that.
I understand. So I won't belabor that point. But as far as the use of city property, I don't know if I can share the screen, but I have a video to show you. But it would really just be of the length of Park Avenue going eastbound. I would say 80 to 90% of the homes along Park Avenue have something built right up to the sidewalk.
Right. I'm just thinking, let's think about liability again. Supposing you're sitting in your car and you open the door and you slam into some kid coming down the sidewalk on a bicycle. I can't even believe
that happens every day on the
street.
You have to be aware of opening your door wherever you park, even if it's on the street. Things like that.
I don't have any other questions.
Yeah, but a sidewalk is different from a street.
I know there's no expectation that
it should be a safe zone. Yeah,
sure. I understand that. Like I said, I'm not sure what is more of a concern, the use of city property or the safety concern that you guys are worried about. But
it's a package.
I'm the safety concern. I'm the door. You can't get out of that car without opening the door into the sidewalk, and now you're dealing with skateboarders, bicyclists, and not that they should be on the sidewalk either, but I just see that as being, and I think that's an insurance question too, to be honest with you. Did you think about that with your insurance company? Have you consulted with your insurance?
I have not.
I'm wondering if that should be a factor that is considered here. I totally get it. I mean, I'd like to see you get a parking spot. I just don't want to put anybody in a position of having set you up for a huge lawsuit or something like that. That's all I'm really thinking about here.
Yeah, I understand, but I think there's a risk every time you pull in and out of your driveway that you might not see a skateboarder coming down from one side or another because there's an obstructed view for some reason, or we all need to be careful, safe when we're pulling in and out of our driveways. It would just be natural.
Mr. Barkus, I mean, each commissioner here has raised their concerns, so it's not just Commissioner Alton's concern. There's a couple of other concerns as well. One being that safety is one concern. Then you have, I guess, the curb cut concern, but the encroachment on city property is the other, right? Typically, area variances go out to the property line. You're asking to go beyond that. That's another big concern for the board to consider.
Yeah.
Don't you think that there's already a,
I don't know what it is.
I wouldn't say a precedent, but there's people all along Park Avenue that either have fenced in portions of city property, built decks onto it.
But that's not like we've granted that here in this forum. So that's very different.
Mr. Barkus, what you're referring to is more of an enforcement issue than something that this board addresses typically. So some of the pictures that you showed were kind of, cars which may or may not be.
Unfortunately, they're all enforcement issues. And the thing is, is that, quite honestly, when we look at these situations, again, people do whatever they want to do, they don't necessarily do them legally. And the problem is that I think, it's been mentioned already about a precedent setting interview, but we certainly can't go and allow and sanction anything that, people are doing just because they're doing it. And I certainly think that we would be creating a hazard if we were to allow people to stop parking. And again, listen, Mr. Barkus, with all due respect, I really feel for you. I really do. I feel it's terrible. I mean, people are paying substantial amounts of taxes to live here. It's terrible that you can't, park in front of your own house. It's terrible that you can't even, get a spot on the street. Now with all the raised homes, I mean, I know myself. I mean, I go to a chiropractor in the West End. I can't even park anywhere because there isn't one private, one public spot on the street anymore, and it's ridiculous. But the thing is, we can't, and my heart, it really does. I mean, because I feel terrible for you. I really do. But I'm concerned, as the other members of the board said, of us allowing something that isn't even potentially legal, and the board can't do anything like that because, first of all, if anybody decided to challenge it, the city would certainly lose because of our decision. It would be a very arbitrary, capricious decision in my view. It's something where I wish we could do something to help your problem, but I don't know that this is going to be, a legal solution. I mean, it's certainly going to create a bigger problem because I could just see, case number X and case number X plus 2 and case X number, plus 3, that these cases are going to, start coming into the zoning board. And even though each case is on a case by case basis, I don't want, the south side of Park Avenue, and it's not me personally, but I don't think that the city would certainly appreciate having the south side of Park Avenue look like, a third lane of traffic. It's just, it's something that, and again, with all due respect, I believe that, you're probably very proficient at driving and you're able to get the car in and out safely. But I would worry about the next guy who doesn't. And this is something that we allowed. Then, I mean, how do the members of the board, weigh in on this?
Could I just say one thing before they weigh in?
Sure, certainly. Go ahead. I
didn't mean to interrupt, but what about the possibility of a conditional or a temporary variance that it would be conditional on my ownership by me? Let's say if the ownership change in the house, you wouldn't want this to go on in perpetuity for everybody that owned the house for the next 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a disability or something.
That would certainly be a different factor. That's generally how we grant those temporary conditional variances. Someone has a very specific condition that is a prerequisite, or something that certainly requires it, and it would be kind of hard to do. I'll be honest with you. I don't think
can I throw something else in there? Well,
go ahead.
We're going to give you a chance.
You certainly are, and I appreciate it. You talked about these special conditions. Myself and my wife both work at hospitals and work strange hours. My wife comes home very late at night, sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning, and she's not finding a spot 2-3 blocks away at 2 o'clock in the morning. And now I go outside and try to, and watch her to make sure that she makes her way home safely. I'd like to be able to provide her with a safe place to park. Maybe to pull at your heartstrings a little bit to let you know that she's doing the like the COVID vaccinations right now. Trying to get everybody set up with that, and that's what's creating these situations with the odd hours. But certainly walking home at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2-3 blocks away, especially on the weekends with the crowd that's out there on the streets, is not safe either. That's probably more of an unsafe thing than me backing out of this driveway. Anyway, thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Mr. Barkus. Again, we appreciate it. Is this a case that anybody wants to make a motion on, or do we want to hold this over till next month?
I think we should let Rich maybe look further into what the legal ramifications are of allowing for a city easement, which is what this kind of comes down to.
It does, not even kind of. It is.
It is. Yeah. Can we even do that? Number one, and number two, Stephen, I think you should reach out to your insurance, both auto and home insurance, to see if you're running into an area where they're going to deny coverage if anything, God forbid, happens that's harmful and opens everybody up to lawsuits. Okay.
All right. So I think, Commissioner Alton said it best. I mean, I think that, everybody wants to be prudent here. We're a bunch of decent people that want to do the right thing by our residents. And, at the same time, we've got a little balancing act here that we have to do in terms of, following the law, keeping people safe. But we're also at the same time, sympathetic, empathetic to the plight of our fellow citizens. I mean, we all get it. We all live here, and if you can do that, and then Council Barrios will look into what Mr. Alton said, then we'll have a decision at the next meeting. Okay. Case will remain open until voting.
Okay, thanks for your time.
You're welcome, sir. All right, next case.
Case number 3189, application of Patrick Somers of 420 East Walnut Street, Long Beach, New York, or a variance from the following section of the zoning of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2D side yard to maintain a new wood deck at 420 East Walnut Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 156, lot 13, on Nassau County land tax map.
All right,
Mary
Mr. Summers is here.
Riley, you need to unmute yourself. Mary Rose, unmute yourself.
There we go. Hi, do you hear
Ms.
me
Riley,
now?
right?
Yes,
Okay, give us your name and address, please. Hi.
sure. Hi, my name is Mary Rose Riley, president of the firm Ione Renaissance Associates, located at 732 Smithtown Bypass, Smithtown, New York.
Sorry, Ms. Riley, can you please repeat
Sure,
what you just said?
absolutely. Is my microphone working all right?
I can hear you. You were talking too
Oh.
fast of what organization you're with.
Yeah, I do that. I'm sorry. It's
Okay.
Ione, IANNONE, Renaissance Associates.
Thank you.
And that's 732 Smithtown Bypass in Smithtown. And I am the agent for Patrick Somers, who's the homeowner at 420 East Walnut.
All right. So let me start by saying this. At this point, the key word that jumps out at me is maintain.
Yes.
New wood deck. So
Yes.
was this the subject of a violation?
It was, and I was brought in to handle the paperwork in order to legalize this. It's essentially a walkway. I know it says wood deck, but it's essentially a walkway. It's 4'3" wide. It's about 48 feet long. And what it does, or the intention of it, was to access the existing rear back deck from the main living areas of the house. So the house is an inline high ranch, and the back rooms are 2 bedrooms. So they were going through one of the back bedrooms, which, as they began to have a family, that was their child's room. And they kept walking through the child's room with all the stuff to barbecue and entertain, and it became a problem. So the plan was they were going to add a sliding door in the living room, which is all the way in the front of the house. And so they have to get to that back deck. So this 4'3" wide walkway was the solution to that problem that they're having.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a couple of things about it. I'm looking at the photograph of it.
Mhm.
My first question, Ms. Riley, would be, why wouldn't it have been practical? Would it have been less obtrusive if perhaps they would have, made stairs going down? I mean, this is how I have to get around my house. I mean, I have stairs going down that second floor to the front, and then I've got to walk around, and you could have stairs off the back deck coming down. So in other words, if you're going out into the yard and you're entertaining people and you're bringing, stuff around and stuff, and then you're in the backyard and you want to go back up to the second floor, that back deck could have a staircase too, and you don't have to go all the way back up to, the front.
That back deck does currently have a staircase.
All right. So my
and so-
question would be, why did they necessarily need to connect it? I mean, because certainly, it seems to me when somebody was building that, they had to have known that they were going into the side yard projection. I mean, I have an 8-foot side, and I know if I want to add a deck to the side of my house, I have to get a variance. It's an 8 foot, but you can't be more than, you can't go into the 5 foot, more than the 5 foot area of the setback. So the
Right,
thing is,
so
I mean,
right now, they're
somebody
4
built
point.
that deck, knowing that it
Yes.
probably wasn't legal,
Right, so the minimum side yard required on that west side is 5 feet. So
Right.
we're down to, I think, like 4.63. So we're encroaching 6 inches into that 5 yard,
Well,
5
let me
foot
just
side
stop you
yard.
for a second.
Sure.
That side yard is only 5 feet. It looks a little bigger than that from the photograph.
As of, hold on a second.
I'm looking at,
looking.
that doesn't look
Yeah.
right. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, according to the survey, hold on a second. There is 8.93 feet from the west side of the house to the
Yeah.
property line.
Okay.
That deck is 4.3 feet, which leaves 4.63 feet as a side yard.
Right,
So
but the code calls for 5 feet on one side and 8 feet on the other side.
Right. That's
We've
what
got
I'm
5
saying.
feet on the
Because
east
even if I wanted to do, on my 8 foot side, I actually wanted to do a 3 foot deck, but that would bring it, a 3 foot deck is very small. So what I'm saying is that intrudes into the side yard by, a fair amount, because the west side yard, you're
Was the
supposed to
8 foot
have
side yard.
5 feet. So now this leaves 4.63 feet. It's a long deck. I mean, it's the length of the house is 48 feet, and I'm looking at the cost of improvement, and it's kind of amazing that you could get something like that done for $5,000. I mean, I was getting
I'm sorry.
estimates of more than that to put some steps on.
That's supposed to be 15. Does that say 5? It's supposed to be
Yeah, it says
15.
5,000. That's what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
If it's
That's my.
$5,000, I mean, I couldn't.
No,
I was
that's
gonna
the
ask
error.
for your
Put steps
I was
on
gonna
it
ask for
now.
your contact. Okay.
Yeah, man,
Yeah,
that's a
no,
good
that's-
it's a cheap. Give me his name. I mean,
No, I'm sorry. That's supposed to be 15.
So the thing is this. The thing is that now at this point, we have the violation. Who was it? A neighbor that reported this, or was it just like basically the building department on a CO issue came around and was looking to inspect for a CO, or did they come around based on a call or on a tip? How did this come to be a violation?
I believe someone called. The homeowner does not know who. He was
All right,
very
no, it doesn't really
surprised.
matter.
No, but he was very surprised and disappointed because he said that he's been friendly with all of the people that live around him since he's moved
Did
in.
he have to go? Did he have to go to Long Beach City Court yet with this? And then they told him that he had to go for a variance to legalize it, and they would, dispose of it that way, or?
I honestly don't know if he's been to court yet. I know I spoke to Rich Shue, who was the inspector.
Right.
And he was the one who kind of gave me the directions as to how to, go to move this through to get to go before the board. I haven't been before the board in your village for many, many years. So he was very helpful in that. He was the one who issued the violation and did the inspection initially. So, we're really just trying to get this legalized. He's, the homeowner understands, he went about it the wrong way, did it backwards. And, we are asking for, forgiveness instead of permission at this point. We realize that. And, just moving forward, trying to get this thing resolved so that he can get a CO on his house. He can, finish up the construction, which stopped at one point. He knows that there's going to be fines, and if he ends up in court, he ends up in court. But we're really just trying to get this thing, as quickly legalized as possible.
Now, who was William Keenan at 1 Highwood Court in St. James?
He is the professional engineer, the designer of record. He went out, he did an inspection, and prepared the plans for submission.
And he designed the deck?
No, the deck was already built when he went to do the inspection.
Okay.
But he said it's overbuilt, actually,
I'm
was
sure
what
it
he
is. I
told
mean,
me.
He's just signed off on it structurally, you're saying.
Right.
He's not, yeah.
Yeah, no, he didn't build it. He didn't design it. He went out and looked at it, inspected it, and,
Okay.
prepared the plans and said that it was acceptable to him from structural standpoint. He was willing to put his seal on it.
Okay. So, all right, we see the right side elevation. We can all see it's a pretty, it's a pretty substantial deck in terms of its impact along the length of the house.
Well, there is a very huge hedge, which I don't know if you can see it from the photographs, but there's a hedge between the two properties
Yeah.
that's probably 16, 17 feet tall. It's enormous, this huge green hedge. So as far as, you know, visually impacted from the neighbor who would be the most affected by it,
Right.
unless they cut down that hedge, they're really not going to see it.
Okay. All right. How do the members of the board feel?
Robin, was this the one where the neighbor put in pictures from inside their windows, looking out at the deck?
I don't know.
Say that again?
420 East Walnut, there was an email on 2420.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the neighbor submitted pictures from inside their house.
Isn't Mr. Kelly representing?
Mr. Kelly is representing a neighbor, so.
Okay, so we'll hear from him a little later.
All right. So at this point then, why don't we move on? Let's move this along. Let's move on to people for or against. Is there anyone for it?
I have one other question, Rocco, before this.
Go ahead.
Was this deck part of a bigger construction project, or was just added onto a house?
As far as I know, it was added on to the side of the house, connecting to an existing rear deck that became problematic to use through the existing bedroom on the second floor.
All right, so there wasn't a bigger permit, and then this was added on. They just did no permit whatsoever.
No, not for this piece of it, no.
Chairman Morelli, you asked a question before. Building department just issued a 10-day notice. It's not in city court.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so at this point, there is no one that wants to speak in favor of this, am I correct?
There are no hands raised.
And you said Mr. Kelly had hand raised to speak against representing the neighbor, am I correct?
That's correct.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Kelly. Just, give us your name and address for the record.
Dennis Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Suite 311, Long Beach, New York, 01561. Here on behalf of Anna Makarevich, Makarevich, who I think should also be on the line and paying attention. I think she may want to say something after I speak. Ms. Makarevich lives at 414 East Walnut, which is the house immediately to the west of 420 East Walnut. She strongly objects to any variance granting or maintaining what is presently been built illegally on the side of 420 East Walnut Street. You'll note if you go through the neighborhood that this is not in the character of the neighborhood at all. In fact, something like this is hard to find. You might find it if you really look somewhere in the West End. I'm not quite sure, but it is something unusual to see. It's detrimental to the nearby property. As Commissioner Leonetti mentioned, I submitted 8 photographs to try to give you a perspective from Ms. Makarevich's house. If we could just go through them quickly. The photograph that I listed as number 1 as a photograph that was sent digitally. That's a view from Miss Makarevich's bedroom window, facing what would be the front of that walkway or deck of the house. The second picture is from a somewhat similar perspective of looking at that walkway from the bathroom to the master bedroom, which was the first picture. The second picture is from the bathroom to the master bedroom. Third photograph is from the bathroom downstairs, which you can see is perfectly at eye level.
Mr. Kelly, I don't think we have them as part of our package, do we? Just the email that you sent today? Is that?
Yeah, these are the emails, yeah.
Today, I didn't see these pictures. I didn't even know there was going to be opposition. Is there any way I can see them? Can you post them up on the screen, or I haven't seen these photographs?
We just received them today.
Oh.
But what's interesting about the photographs is that it looks like the deck goes to a place where there's not even, it's not even about a door, right? Like, what is the purpose of this
Well,
deck?
I think Mr. Summers intended to nice and quietly build the deck and then build the door.
And then build the door. The door's not there yet. I get it.
It's not there yet.
If you look at the plans I submitted, the door is shown on the drawings because that was part of the application. To the
But it's
to
just
building
not been
permit.
installed yet. Okay. It
Because
just
he was
looks
given
like-
a stop work order, so he stopped.
I see.
I happen to quickly review the building department file. I couldn't find a permit for the original deck in the back. Which if you went to the property, you'd see quite an elaborate deck in the back. It's actually pretty. It's actually very well done. It's and it's got an entrance from the second floor onto the deck and a nice staircase leading down into the yard.
Yes,
This
that
is,
entrance is through a bedroom.
Yeah, there's a door there. I don't know what's on the
Yes.
inside. Obviously,
The
I'll
bedroom.
accept your representation. But
It doesn't show on the survey, so you're right, Dennis.
And then I think I'm talking to Commissioner Acevedo now. When I am making reference to the various photographs, these were digital photographs that I emailed to the secretary to the zoning board, and the JPEGs themselves are labeled the case number and the number of the photo. And I was just retained last night, yesterday evening. So the third picture is a photograph reflecting my client's perspective from her downstairs bathroom, which you can see is level with the front of the walkway. And then there's another picture from, I believe, what is the kitchen, looking out to the deck as well. And another one from the kitchen, looking straight at the deck. Number 6 is a photograph of the front of the deck at the location where I think a door probably would be installed. And then I have a close-up picture of the area of the property line and the setback itself. So I think this is an 8-foot setback, from what I can tell. That was my estimate, just looking at this photograph. And you can see the photographs that Miss Riley, the foliage that Miss Riley was making reference to in photograph 8, which is a photograph of the two houses and the setback of the two setbacks between the two houses. And you'll see those large apervite or some sort of evergreen, it looks like.
It doesn't obscure the view from your client's house, though. You can see the deck right over the shore.
Yes, and in fact, you can see, if you walk down the walkway, you can see, so if you walk south down along the walkway, you can see into my client's yard. And the reason why she has the abrevieties there is because there's a pool in her yard. She bought the house in October of 2020 after living there as a renter for 3 years. And then all of a sudden this was going up. And she retained me last night to represent her. She's on the line as well. As far as the factors to be considered by the zoning board, I don't think there's anything weighing in favor of granting this variance relative to this walkway. And I think Chairman Morelli hit it right on the nose where there's other feasible methods. They might not be the most convenient methods, but they are feasible and they can work. And I'll let Ms. Makarevich, if we can, Ms. Lynch, speak on her own behalf about the impact on her life.
She's unmuted, so.
I'm here, guys.
Hi, good evening. Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, committee. It's Anna Makarevich, 414 East Walnut Street. I'm immediate next door neighbor. Honestly, it is way too close to that side of my house, and it is too high of a deck. It goes even over the fence, which is higher than 6 feet because we do have a pool, and there is even space in between. So when the person is standing on the deck, they have unobstructed view. Yes, it's my trees, that's my greenery, but they're not as full enough And when you stand on some part of that, you can see every inch of my backyard. I am losing completely my property. Absolutely. He can stand at any moment of the day. It's giving stress as of right now. It's intruding our life. And when he stands on the deck and complain and scream or talk on the phone or complain to his friends and examiners, and maybe right now he's legally getting people to help.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you just said? When he complains to who?
He complained to friends, to architects that came to inspect after it was stopped construction. He was screaming that he will make a living hell when he found out who reported him. And I did not report him, but that noise and intrusion was continued for months until August, until it was cold in November, and him standing on the deck talking on his phone with a loud voice. That's already intrusive. I understand they're young people, growing family. I do have a sympathy. I do know, because I lived here for 3 years, that they have those parties and they want to serve, but that foot traffic, unobstructed view, and that amount of noise that goes when it's actually, I don't mind them having party when I don't see them, they do not see me. And that noise, the fence is blocking. When he's standing on the deck, I see the intrusion. I already have those results. I'm working hard. I want, because of COVID, we're all stuck at home. My whole side of the house, he has view in every window, and now he's completely killing property value because of that side deck, of that length and standing anywhere looking at me.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Because of the
height of the deck and visibility that he has on backyard. So with that traffic, downstairs windows have completely constantly just feet walking by, and upstairs he can see into my bedroom and to my bathroom. That's a big intrusion, to see my the whole yard and to see that. And honestly, it's an old house. We do not have central air. We open the windows to have opportunity of that salty air coming in. I see the amount of noise and intrusion right now. I'm afraid what it's going to be during the summer. He started construction illegally. He did not even notify us. I needed to text and ask, like, what's going on? Several days I cannot work. It's noise. There was just, Spanish speaking people singing songs, doing all that construction. You did not even have the
I'm sorry, is anybody else having a problem hearing her or breaking up?
No, I'm hearing.
I hear her.
You do
Or
not
she's
have
breaking
respect to
up a
notify
little
your
bit for me.
neighbors, to notify your community, to obey the city rules when you know that you need to get those permits. You do not take an opportunity to talk to me right now. You just put a sign on your lawn that there is objections. It's so much time that you had opportunity and you fail, and fail. I cannot, if it would be approached somehow, maybe I would consider, maybe we'll do some agreements. I do not have space to put additional trees on that little space that I have. It's smaller than usual houses have. I have generator and pool equipment. There is no space for me to put something. And why is it even allowed that he'll be entitled to intrude my life and I need to protect myself building something else? It is big intrusion. It is absolutely unacceptable and was not legally right, was not approached, was not negotiated. Like one of your other clients said that did you approach the neighbor and did somebody object? You had that opportunity. You do not care about your neighbors at all. You do what you want and you cover it up. From my stand of view, it's a big intrusion in my life. We
Okay.
just got the house, and I want to have, I want to work and rest on my property, and not to look over or hear that noise and to be intruded. It's a direct to you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may for a second. I just want to briefly state something that Ms. Makarevich referenced. One of the concerns here is that they like to entertain, which nobody has a problem with that, but that this walkway will be the conduit between the kitchen and the back deck. And when they're entertaining, it is going to be a major intrusion on her because they do like to entertain. So I not only think it's that it's inappropriate and illegal, but that it's also a real intrusion. And I think she did a pretty good job. She thought she needed me.
No, Dennis, she articulated her case very well. All right. I mean, as far as being illegal, yeah, it was done illegally. I mean, as far as it being a convenience, I would love to have something like that in my own house. I live a block away from them. The thing is that the question here becomes, it's the length. I mean, the length is what we're looking at. I mean, if they had built, without permission, a deck that had come off of that side door, which is something that I always wanted to do, and a landing coming down the side of the house so they could access the backyard. I think the impact would be a little different. I mean, certainly to your client, Dennis, your client's concerns. I mean, I have a 3-level house. I mean, from my den on the 3rd floor, I can see everybody's backyard on my block. I mean, I can see every inch of the adjacent houses myself. I mean, so that feeling of, having people looking over into your yard. I mean, in all fairness, we live in Long Beach. I mean, we don't live in St. James on, an acre of property. Everybody can see everybody's yard. But what I'm really listening to your client, Mrs. Makrovich, and what I find objectionable is the length of this thing. I mean, if again, I certainly would have a higher level of sympathy, even something having been done illegally, if it was for a necessity to get down to that backyard, a staircase, maybe a little landing. I don't think anybody would complain much about that. But I think a 48-foot run is what certainly Mrs. Makrovich is concerned. And, to your point, Mr. Kelly, Dennis, I think that, neighbors going back and forth, I mean, I should say guests going back and forth along a 48-foot run is a concern, I mean, to people. And I understand that. I mean,
May I
don't
reply?
know how something that big could have even been built, and nobody was even noticing it being built. I mean, I'm assuming that the deck in the backyard, nobody complained about, nobody sees it, even though it's probably not, done with permits. And I'm assuming that your client's pool is legal. I'm sure there are things in neighborhoods that people overlook. One neighbor overlooks another. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying that something like this proved itself to be kind of an affront because of its length. I mean, Ms. Riley, I'll direct this towards you. And again, we don't like having people to tear things down and so forth and so on. But a 48-foot run being built without permits is big. I mean, it's not something that, again, we've looked at people that said, oh, I didn't know that I couldn't put a staircase. We just need it for fire access. And quite honestly, 2nd floor apartments, they should probably have a second access. But the thing is, that's not for us to decide right now. But the thing is that I find personally that the 48 feet in respect to Mr. Kelly's client, I could understand where she's coming from. I certainly
may I reply?
Huh?
May I reply?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Please.
Sure. So a number of things, and to have compassion on Ms. Makaravich, I understand you did live there for 3 years before you bought the house, and you bought the house when the construction was going on. I know that you feel bad that he did not approach you, and I guess as a neighbor, that would kind of bother me a little as well. But conversely, you probably could have approached him and said, "What's going on? Can we talk about it? I'm feeling."
I did, and he did not.
All right.
Okay, wait, one at a time, folks.
Let me
Folks, let's
finish,
just
okay?
respect each other's time.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, go ahead.
Okay,
Well, I'm letting
so
Mrs. Riley finish.
thank you. So that's the first thing. Second of all, this is an inline high ranch. The house next door, I believe, is a traditional colonial with the bedrooms upstairs and the main living areas downstairs. This is an inline high ranch, which when built 40, 50 years ago was, kind of new and cool, except all of the living areas are now up on the second floor. And in the middle of a regular neighborhood like Long Beach, where you have 8, 10 feet between houses, you're going to hear all kinds of noise spilling through hedges, spilling over fences and out of windows. That's the way it is because the main living areas are up on the second floor. Therefore, the kitchen is up on the second floor. Any decks or any access off the kitchen, which you would have to entertain, is up on the second floor. That's a hardship created by the type of house that this is. That being said, I understand that everybody is stuck at home. I understand that sometimes we live next to neighbors who entertain more or entertain loudly, and you put up with it because they're neighbors. However, this family is living at home, working at home. They have a young child, and they are trying to continue to live their life during COVID like everybody else is. The only way to get to that back deck without going through their child's room is to access it from the living area, which happens to be at the front of the house. The house itself is, hold on a second, 50 feet long, front to back. That's the length of the house. We didn't do this on purpose to, look over into people's yards. The home across the street has a huge deck over an existing garage. I was there, they were doing yoga on the deck. This is part of living in a very closely built community. You see, you hear, it's part of the Long Beach feeling. You're on top of people, that's the way that it is. If you go down Walnut Street, a few houses, and I can't give you the count, and I'm sorry about that, there is a house on the same side that also has a side deck. I don't know if that is a legally existing deck or not, but I know that it is there, and that is the structure that my client says was the idea for him to be able to get to his back deck. He said, "Oh, somebody else in the neighborhood did this." Again, I don't know if it's legal or not. I don't know, under what circumstances it was built. But, I almost kind of feel like, he's trying to work with what he has, which is a house that has all of the living areas upstairs, and the main living areas of the house are toward the front. The bedrooms are in the back. Most people entertain in their backyards. So the idea was, and I know he did it without a permit, and I'm not saying he was right or that he's justified. I'm explaining and presenting the why it has to be what it is. Unless he's going to go out a bathroom, if he's trying to get to his backyard from the main living area of his house, it by its existence has to be that far forward because he has to get the door into the living area. The whole point was to not go through bedrooms. So that's the reason why it is what it is. The height of the deck is the second floor because the main living area is the second floor. And because it's a high ranch, there's nothing he can do about that. It is what it is.
I sympathize, Ms. Riley, I sympathize with what you're saying, okay? Just to give you a little background, I have a very similar type of house, but it's on 3 levels. And the thing is, to get to my backyard or to get to I have to walk through the master bedroom to get to the deck. So I get it. I mean, we're entertaining on the second floor. If I wanted people to go down or to go out onto my back, I'd have to go out through the master bedroom. And, this is a situation that we're all familiar with living in Long Beach. Just so you know, I mean, I know you're out from Suffolk. I lived in Port Jeff. I have a business right now in head of the harbor. So I know the area.
Right, you're familiar with
and
the
the
area.
bottom line is, so when I saw St. James, I mean, I'm there. And the thing is this, It's the 48-foot run. Again, I have often thought about putting a doorway in the middle of my living room on my second floor and building a little landing. I even need a variance to do that because I have 8 feet. I'd need a variance to do that. But you got to admit that a little landing isn't 48 feet, you know?
Right, and it's because he's trying to get to that
what we
back
see
deck.
as the problem here. You
Right,
know, I don't know how any of the other members, you know, would feel. I'd like to open the floor up to some other comments again, if there's anything else, because you know, we're trying to be very fair here, and we don't certainly like to see people having to tear things down, you know, but we also at the same time, you know, we've got to follow the law, and we've also got to protect the others, you know, in the neighborhood too. And I understand what you said, you know, she's saw what was going on. Why didn't she ask? Well, she didn't. And maybe it wasn't necessarily incumbent on her to have to ask. I'll give you
I
a
agree
minute,
with that.
So, all right, at this point in time,
Forgive me.
you know, I think we've heard from both sides. I think we understand the case well.
Can I?
I don't think anybody's going to want to make a motion probably on this tonight, unless I'm wrong. Does anybody want to make a motion on this case tonight?
I don't want to, Commissioner, I don't want to make a motion, but I'd just like to
Go ahead.
To make a comment. Ms. Riley, we all understand what we would like to have to make our situation better. We get that. Just like Commissioner Morelli is expressing how to go to his back deck, he has to go through his master bedroom. We all have situations that we can do to make our lives better living in Long Beach. But it sounds to me like Mr. Summers knew that he was doing something not legal and continued to do so. And that's more my concern, that he just continued. He didn't even look into it. He just said, I'm doing it, and he did it. And to Chairman Morelli, it's a 48-foot run. Okay, so that's what the concern. Your argument, which was well spoken, was as to why he did it, not whether he should have done it or not.
I prefaced it in the beginning that said he didn't do it with a permit, and that was wrong. Yes.
Now we're here after, right? So now we're here after the fact.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to express to everyone. You know, we can't just continue to, you know, for the approval after the fact and think it's going to be okay.
Right.
We continue to do that. We can't do that.
You know, yes, we all live in Long Beach and we know things are tight. You know, an 8-foot setback and a 5-foot setback is terrible. You know, I mean, you're going to hear what's going on in your neighbor's house and vice versa. But then to take that 8 feet and cut it in half to 4 feet, it makes it even worse. And, you know, it's just, you know, it's good for the one person and not for the other. And that's why the variances are there. And if there's a good reason for the variance that can be justified, then we adjust it. But, you know, so far I'm not seeing that here. I would also like to know when the back deck was built and if it was by the same guy who built this, the same owner.
And I can't answer. I don't know that. I can find that out for you, but I can't answer that.
I understand that. So if you're going to put some more information in before next month's vote, I would like to know that answer.
Sure, I can get that for you.
Thank you.
Can I also make a comment?
Mr. Chairman?
My microphone was off. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to speak. Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Well, as Ms. Riley said, that we also did walk the neighborhood and examine the neighborhood. And I did not see the deck, but there is no two houses as close to each other as we are. His house is oversized as his. My side variance is very small. And just to comment on to what Ms. Raleigh said that I did not approach, I did. And I did actually present evidence of my communication and writing with Patrick. And I did negotiate the meeting between us, which he promised that he will address the concerns and talk to me. And if he decides to go ahead with construction, he will approach me. He failed to do that. He does not care. He makes promises that he does not keep. When the deck construction was stopped by violation, he ran house to house harassing people. Did you report me? I know everybody in building of departments. They will know. They'll tell me who it is. So what are you saying? The city is corrupt. You're running around. You're screaming. You're harassing me that I did not do. I did not do anything. I ask you, what are you doing? What is that noise? How do we address and when? He did not do any of it. So I think it's a big intrusion and there is no good intent. It did not start legally or peacefully. Thank you. I'm done.
Well, thank you. We understand. We can hear it in your voice that there's sincerity here. And again, Ms. Riley, I know, you're representing your client and you're doing your job and you're doing a passionate job as well. Again, the board has to weigh all the factors involved. I mean, we're going to keep the case open until voting. If anybody wants to send in any other submissions and any other evidentiary material, we'll certainly look at it before the vote, but this isn't something I'm certainly not ready to vote on this tonight. And so I think we'll move on to the next case. At this point, we spent a lot of time on this case now.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good evening, folks.
Case number 3190, application of Francis and Barbara O'Hagan of 47 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance following section of the zoning code ordinances of City of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height, new second story addition at 47 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 259, lot 20 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening. Are the applicants present?
We are.
Yes.
Okay. So give us your name and address for the record, please.
Named Francis O'Hagan, and my wife is Barbara O'Hagan, and 47 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, 11563.
Good. All right, Mr. and Mrs. O'Hagan. So you're here for the second story addition at 47 Delaware. Let's talk about it a little bit. And basically, why do we need a variance for this? It's because of the height. So
correct.
You come here seeking a height variance of 25 and 5 inches, and the code allows for 23. Is this a house that was raised and you're adding to it, or is this a house that was just at street level staying and you're adding a second floor to it?
This house, when we bought it, was raised 5.5 feet above street level.
That was before Sandy, or
that was before Sandy. It was 5.5 feet above street level.
Okay.
It is a very narrow house, and we're finding with our growing family that we need a little bit more room. So we would like to. I'm in the picture. We would like to have a dormer on one side and a big bedroom in the back, someplace where we can escape from the rest of the family.
Escape. Well, I love honesty, All right. So now let me ask you this. Let's cut to the meat of this, because you're not asking us for a deck, a variance. This is just a height variance. All right. Why does it have to be 25 and a half? Is it because the pitch of the house, it's a narrow house, you said, so the pitch of the roof is probably kind of steep? I'm looking to see a drawing of that. So is that where we get the 25 and a half from? And also, what are the ceiling heights?
I think our architect is on the line.
Mr. Curtis, right?
Yes.
Howard Curtis, right?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis. Oh, you look different. You grew a beard, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen you in a while.
It's my COVID,
all right, so just give us your address.
My COVID protest beard.
Yeah, I get it. Believe me, I had one of my own. Go ahead.
My address is 241 Lansdowne Avenue.
Okay.
Carl Place, New York.
All right. So, Mr. Curtis, just a couple of quick questions. First of all, what's the height of the ceiling?
We have an existing 7'7" ceiling height on the first floor of the existing bungalow. We have an 8-foot ceiling height on the new work.
Okay.
Our home is roughly 5 feet out of grade.
Okay.
And we have a 512 roof pitch,
Oh, okay,
which
so that's pretty minimal, huh?
all added up puts us at 25'5".
There's an attic space in there too with the mechanicals, or?
It's not for mechanicals, but there'll be a small attic that they'll be able to use for some storage of about 3.5 to 4 feet.
All right, and you know, with that 5.5, there's really 5 on 12. There's really not a lot of room for wiggle in there. Even a 4 on 12, you
Correct.
really wouldn't get much out of.
Trying to be cognizant of the 23 feet, but also give the house a roof pitch, give them some storage. That's where it played out.
Yeah, yeah, no, I see it. I'm looking at the rest of the plans here.
Yeah, so we have an existing, it's 3 small bedrooms on one side of the home. There's one open space on the north side, which is the living and kitchen. There's really no area even for a table. The O'Hagans use the island peninsula, the kitchen peninsula, for dining. The back of the house is the utility space and a bathroom and a half. And the front is really it's an open it's a porch, but it's sort of an unusable space. Really, it's a glorified entryway at this point. So
Let me ask you now. I'm just looking at on the plan, Mr. Curtis. I'm looking on the plan and I see. So it's partially dormant. Let's say it's dormant on one side. So now that area where it says roof, that's just an open deck area?
It's a sloping roof area that we're not building over. It's the roof from below.
Okay.
So the addition is sort of an L shape.
So basically it's like a little recessed area you can walk out onto from the family room?
You can't walk out onto the roof area. It's a sloping roof the roof will come up into the wall of
Oh, I
the
see.
family
Okay,
room
okay.
at some point.
You know, what I was getting at was basically this isn't a rooftop deck.
No,
Okay,
it's a
that's
slope.
what
It's a roof that covers part of the one-story house.
yeah, no, I understand.
They have a vaulted ceiling they want to maintain. and
Yeah,
the
no,
living
I got it.
is
I got it. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Any of the other members of the board?
If this house was raised, they would be measuring from the base flood level.
Correct.
So right now, they're measuring from the street level.
Correct.
And so this house is way less, intrusive than houses that are raised 8 feet.
That's 100% correct, Mr. Leonetti. In fact, on this block, right next to us to the north is a 3-story new FEMA house. There's one behind us. There's a half dozen across the street, all 3 stories. So, not that they're wrong. They're by law, we're mandated to be that, but they're in the 34, 35, 36 foot range. So, they are much taller than ours.
What you built on top of.
I'm sorry?
You did a minimal height
increase. Yes. Trying to give the O'Hagans the space they desired, but not go crazy with the build. A, for cost, B, for, what it would look like, and they didn't need it, so.
All right.
So is that staircase then does not exist and is that being added for this second floor? Is that correct?
The staircase in the front room?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, right now, that's like a porch room that spans the width of the front of the house.
Not there now then, right?
No, there's a front
So
door
you're
that's
gonna have
centered.
you'll have 3 bedrooms on the first floor and 2 bedrooms on the second floor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
It has an awful smell of something that could easily be converted to a 2-family.
Mr. Shu brought that up to me when we filed.
It really does. I mean, to me, you just take that foyer, you sneak in a door up to the staircase, and you got a 2-family right there.
Yep, I totally understand that.
Just letting you know that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. So just letting you know that.
And Mr. Shu brought that up to me. He said, "Oh, what's this going to be, a 2-family?" And I said, "Actually, no. It's just the O'Hagans. Their kids aren't kids anymore." Mm-hmm. And, everybody's an adult and they're bumping into each other there and they just need more space.
Okay.
The building department will be circulating anyway, so,
Sure, well, I mean, as long as the plumbing permit does not have any hidden pipes in the plan to throw.
Listen, if Mr. Shu's aware of it, he'll be there checking it out. Don't worry.
Okay, I hope so, yeah.
He does his job. He's good at his job. So, okay, at this point, unless we were going to change the design of the house, has everybody on the board spoken about this case? Do they have any other questions? Or can we open this up to the audience? Robin, is there anyone who wants to speak?
No, there are no hands raised.
All right. Would any member of the board like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant.
All right, I'll second it too.
Thank you.
Hold on one second.
Oh.
Case number 3190, application of Francis and Barbara O'Hagan of 47 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height for a new second-story addition at 47 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 259, Lot 20, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Grant.
Commissioner Alton, I didn't get your vote.
I said grant. Did you not hear me? I'm sorry.
It broke up. It's fine. Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Good evening, folks. Good luck. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Case
Next
number-
case.
Case number 3191, application of Kevin and Teresa Schaff of 96 Alabama Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking, 9-113.2H off-street parking size for new off-street parking in the front yard at 96 Alabama Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 237, Lot 6, on the Nassau County Land Tax Map. Teresa, you have to unmute your phone.
Sorry, hi everyone.
Hi, good evening. Name and address, please.
My name's Teresa Schaff. I live at 96 Alabama Street, Long Beach, New York, 11561.
How are you? Okay, so you're here tonight because of parking, right? Let's talk about it. So now basically an off-street parking in the front of the house, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, how do you, on your side of the street in Alabama, is there parking on that side or no parking?
Yes, parking on our side.
All right, so you'd be taking, you have a curb cut now?
There's no curb cut. As you can see, some of the pictures I had submitted, it had previously been illegally used as one. There's Broncos and such parked in it. So it almost looks like there is a driveway. And then the curb cut was closed off back in the day, I think, at some point.
Okay.
92.
All right, so now the thing is you're gonna do a parking spot and the parking spot is 17, almost, well, 16.9 instead of the 20. So you have a little bit slightly wider than what the code needs by 9 inches, right? And you're deficient about 3 foot 3 inches from what the code is requiring. First of all, the curb cut that's you said is there, that curb cut's gonna stay there and that's sufficient to service that parking spot?
No, it was actually closed up once I think
Okay.
sold. It was closed up, but yeah, so we would have to get a whole new curb cut put in.
All right, so you would be taking one spot off the street, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But as you
And
know, all the houses near us are raised and
yeah, I know, I can believe me.
you know this feel. I'm not
I
gonna,
get it.
I'm not gonna put
You
you
know,
through it.
Yeah, we live here too, you know?
Yeah.
So we understand. The thing is this, what I wanted to know though, let's say 20 is about 240 inches and I know this is what the code requires and it is, you know, there aren't too many 240 inch cars anymore. The thing is now at 17 feet, you're at approximately, you're about 194 feet, I think, if my math is right. So, you know, there still are cars. I mean, if you have an SUV that's pretty big, it'll stick out over that limit. I mean, a smaller car certainly would fit. I just want to look at the pictures.
Yeah, and just so
here
you know,
from
we
the
have
house.
small cars. I have a Ford EcoSport. It's a lot like 11 feet. So small cars.
Yeah, but if I bought the house and I brought my Expedition over, it would stick out onto the street, right? So we got to think of when we allow something, we have to allow it for whoever's going to buy the house, because they're going to say, gee, I bought this house and it was a legal parking spot when I bought it, but my car sticks out onto the sidewalk. So the thing is, we have to be cognizant of that. That's my point. So now, would anything change? Now you're going to park the car in that side, and I'm assuming that this is the parking spot. Am I correct in
No,
that?
that's actually a comparison of a very
Okay.
small spot that was given as, I believe, for a smart.
Your spot is this.
It looks like there's a driveway there. Exactly. That's all.
Okay. All right, I got you. And it wouldn't require changing anything on the side though, right? Because I don't know if it's the perspective, but is this fence straight? Or the posts to that fence straight, or is that fence, kind of jutting into it a little bit? The fence is continuously straight, right?
It's
It's just the
continuously
illusion on
straight.
the photograph, right?
Yeah, honestly, the
Okay.
only thing we have to do is open up that curb cut again that was closed up. Nothing
Okay.
else structurally has to change anything with our house, nothing.
Okay. And the car, the way you measured it right up against where the white siding is and your little side yard where the garbage pails and stuff are, right? So you'd have to
Exactly.
bring the
Basically
car,
where the, yeah, where
you'd
the,
bring the car, that's 16.9, you measured it right up to that point, right?
yeah, and that was actually also measured by Richie Shu. He actually came and measured it. So those are his.
Okay, and I know Richie's, very accurate with his measurements and stuff like that, so I believe that I would have to believe that that's what it is. I'm not gonna say we haven't allowed 16.9 or 17, 18. I just want to hear any members of the board if they have any questions.
But we're looking at the space with the cobblestones, right? And the other one,
Yes,
the other one is a
yes.
comparison. Yeah, well, there's nothing perfect sized in the West End. So I don't really have a problem with the length. I'm not crazy about the curb cut, losing one on the street. But what happens is usually people are parking their driveway and they're also blocking their own car. So you're not really losing a spot. But I also find that the car perpendicular to the street is less objectionable than like a previous case we saw today where they were parking parallel to the
Well, yeah, I mean, to Commissioner Leonetti's point, I mean, I think, we're trying to do the responsible thing. And I have to say, certainly in many instances, Sandy has really changed the landscape of our city. And the problem in the West End that was previously a big problem has, and I'm not going to stand on a soapbox here, but has been exacerbated by the number of curb cuts, with the big curb cuts, with the tandem parking and the raised homes. And of course, like anybody will say, there are many people that aren't even using their garages, as we had obliged them to do in many cases that we've heard. So my heart goes out, and the plight is of the people who don't have a curb cut, who don't have a raised house, who don't have the benefit of, tandem parking that probably half of them don't even use. And it does make, in my opinion, a compelling argument when someone comes to us with a hardship of looking for a parking spot. Certainly the other gentleman we heard before, we see the lengths to which people are going to in desperation to try to get a place to park their car now that everybody's got these tandem curb cuts. Any other members of the board have any questions or comments?
No.
I think we're putting the curb cut in as to Commissioner Leonetti's point. Most individuals park at the driveway anyway, but there'll be a car in the driveway taking a car off the streets as well. So
listen, cars are getting smaller and smaller anyway. And the thing is, honestly, I don't think that at 17 feet, 194 is, let's say, about 190 inches is really unreasonable for a car these days anyway. Because even the smaller SUVs and stuff, I mean, are fitting within that imprint. I mean, I think even, for example, a bigger SUV, I think a Chevy Tahoe is like 204 inches. So, I mean, And that's a big car. So I think that most cars would fit within that confine. Is there, Robin, is there anyone who is for or against? No?
Yes, I'm elevating Pam B. Raise your hands.
Hi, yes, as people that live literally on the odd side of.
You need to state your name and address for the record.
Oh, it's Pam Banks at 95 Alabama. And as people that live on the odd side of the street that we already don't have parking, if somebody else is allowed to park in their driveway and make another curb stop, then there's another area that we don't get another parking spot. And we're already fighting for parking spots. And I'm afraid that if they just back up and something, it will just keep hitting my curb. And I don't.
Oh, no, we understand your concern. Does anybody have any questions for Pam?
Is that Pam's letter that was in the file, Robin? Did Pam write the letter? I think there was a letter.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So Pam, I'm sorry, Pam, your concern is that when they back out of their.
Well, they're also taking away from another parking spot. And yes, that if they back up, because the street is so narrow, and if they can pull into that one spot, there is a car that is normally parked there, but if they have to go widely around and back up, then yes. And they're also taking another spot away from everybody else that's on the, especially the odd side of the street that needs to park.
Now, if they were granted this curb cut and they put a car in the driveway and they blocked their own driveway, wouldn't that be taking a car off the street? Allowing more parking?
Yes, I mean, then it would also negate the complete reason for for me to live here, that park in front of the option to park in front of my own house. Yes.
I don't think that takes that away.
I just want to make sure that it wouldn't be so narrow as to, because it is a one-way street, that they wouldn't have to go so wide as to hit the curb and do anything else. Like I'm assuming that they're wonderful drivers, but I feel like everybody on the block is trying to go widely to get in and get out. I just want to make sure that everything would be okay.
Right, I can understand that. I just don't think it takes away a spot. I think it adds a spot.
This is a concern that we've raised a lot of times when we are listening to cases where they want to put in a curb cut. Certainly the first thing that we have in mind is it on the, no parking side, or is it on the parking side? So we understand what Pam is. Pam, what was your last name again, please?
Thanks.
Banks, Banks. What she's concerned about. We understand that. Any other members of the board have any questions of Ms. Banks? No. Anybody else want to speak against? No. Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion on this application, or do you want to think about it?
I'll make a motion to grant.
Who was that?
I said I would make a motion to grant.
Oh, okay. That's thanks.
I'll second.
Case number 3191, application of Kevin and Teresa Schaff of 96 Alabama Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking, 9-113.2H off-street parking size for new off-street parking in the front yard at 96 Alabama Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 237, lot 6, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Reckner has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Brooks has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you.
Okay, good night now.
Have a good one.
Right.
Case number 3192, application of Narinder Gruel of 532 East Market Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.7G accessory structure for an accessory structure at 532 East Market Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 168, lot 19, on the Nassau County Land and Tax map.
The applicants are present.
Dr. Gruel, you to unmute yourself.
This looks,
Hi, I'm here. Hi, my name is Narinder Graywall. I live at 532 East Market Street, Long Beach, New York, 11561.
Okay. So basically, you're here for a garage, an accessory structure garage, and you're proposing a height of 14 knots. So was the garage there already and you're modifying the garage, or is this a brand new garage?
No, the garage was there already. It was deemed unstable and we took it down. And we were going to rebuild it. The reason it's being, before you, obviously we didn't get a permit, it's to raise the structure by the ridge line by 2 feet, just to be able to stand it to create attic space. My reason for needing the attic space is after Sandy, I filled in my first floor and turned it into a basement. And when I lost my garage, I initially just moved everything into the basement. I've had issues maintaining the moisture in there, and I'm losing some property just secondary to mold and so on. So to accommodate what I have in there now for my garage and in my basement, I just need a little bit more space in the attic to be able to kind of store everything in there. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay. The location of the garage itself isn't being moved, or hasn't been moved, or anything else. In other words, the footprint of the garage is the same as what it was, right?
Yes, sir. It's pre-existing.
Okay. All the dimensions except for the height, right?
Agreed.
Okay. I'm looking at the plot plan. I mean, it's garage. I mean, what more can you say? Garages do have storage space. How do you get up to the storage space? Is there just a little ladder that you just kind of climb up above the cars to get up to?
Initially, it was really was just a cutout in the roof. You'd have to put a ladder to it to get up to it. But the plan would just be to get a pull down and get access to like a typical.
Okay. Any members of the board have any questions about this? I don't have any questions on this.
If you're starting from scratch, why not just make the garage deeper and have your storage space at the back instead of making it so tall?
Just space wise between the driveway and the back of the house. You'd have to come out from the garage and then I have to redo my whole driveway. I'm just trying to control costs. And honestly, when we first got the permit, it was just to take down and put it back up. And then when I realized I was having issues in the basement, I was just looking for more space. So adding the 2 feet to the attic it seemed simple at the time.
Right, but
Anybody else?
But you're going up 2 feet higher, 1 foot off the property line.
Well, that's where it was. The footprint hasn't changed.
No, I understand the footprint.
Making it bigger or deeper just because I wasn't looking to change the footprint of it. I was just looking to get an additional height in the attic just for storage.
Right. And what kind of fences exist at the property, at the corner there?
I'm sorry, I just have to turn up my volume a little bit. Can you please repeat the question?
What height is the fence at the corner there?
On my back property line, it's 6 feet. And on my neighbor's property, it's 4 feet. With a picket fence for mine's a solid fence at the back property line.
Any other questions? No? All right. Anybody want to speak in favor or against? Robin, no one there?
There's a letter in the file, I think, against Rocco.
Okay, let's read that. Let's get that into the file. And let's see what that is, because I want it on the record. Let me just take a look at it.
I don't know if it's part of our packages or not, but I saw it in an email from.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I picked up my package early. I'm not seeing it unless it came in after.
It came in an email. Rocco, it came in an email.
Oh,
Actually,
okay. I
it
didn't
came
see
in
it
an
then. Mike, would you mind just reading part of it? You'll read it into the record just so we have it in the record, because I haven't seen it.
I got to open up my email and find it.
Oh, okay, all right.
I can read.
Robin, do you
want me
have
to
it
read
available?
in? Yes.
Go ahead. Would you mind telling us?
Sure. Dear Chairman Morelli and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, I am writing this letter in strong opposition to the variance and waiver being requested by the property owners of 532 East Market Street. I am asking that the zoning board deny this variance for the proposed structure garage at 532 East Market Street, Long Beach, New York, section 59, block 168, lot 19, and not grant a waiver of the city ordinance section 901.57G accessory structure, which limits the height to 12 feet. Proposed structure is 14 feet 9 inches in height, 16 feet to the top of the roof ridge, and is larger in area than the original garage, which was removed in 2020. However, not only do the property owners propose to construct a larger garage and a garage that exceeds in the permissible height, but they also wish to construct this garage nearly on the property line. Indeed, rather than rebuild on the original footing, the property owners moved the footing approximately 1.5 feet closer to the fence, which separates our properties. If permitted to do so, the new structure with the proposed increased height will have an adverse effect on the use of my property. The structure will cause my rear property to be shaded for most of the day, impairing my ability to continue my extensive seasonal gardens and other activities. It is wholly unfair to permit the applicant to increase the height of the structure at the same time they are moving it closer to my property line. I wholly object to the proposed structure being erected so close to my property and waiving the height ordinance for this structure. Thus, in closing, I ask that the application for the variance be denied by the zoning board and that the waiver to section 901.57 not be granted for this project. Thank you very much for your consideration to this matter. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Joseph D. DeSalvo, 528 East Market Street.
All right, well, now listening to that neighbor's opposition raises a question in my mind. The first thing is I want to go back to her original question about the home not being, not the home, about the garage not being greater than it was originally. So I want to clarify this now. So the garage now we see is about 1.5 feet more towards the property line, towards that neighbor. And my understanding was that it was the original footprint of the garage. So which is it?
Well, to my understanding, and I'm pretty sure the slab has been inspected already. It was basically had to be redone to provide the footings that were required to make this structure. Pre-existing was bolted to the wood on the ground, and they filled in the inner space, I guess, with a very thin slab that had cracked sandy. So we couldn't build onto that. So we poured a new footing in the place that was pre-existing. And I didn't hear anything back from the inspection that it was inspected. I didn't know there was any issue with encroachment on any of those lines. I mean, I'm aware of the neighbor. I did discuss with mine, and I have no issue with obviously him putting this in. I just was unaware of it being any different from before. Prior to this new request, when the previous garage was there, it was at that height of, I want to say, close to 12 feet. And the sun was the same. So I'm not sure. I don't mean to sound
right. So if I may, the denial or the variance is for the height.
Right.
Although the letter that was written by the neighbor states frequently that it's closer to the house, a side yard setback is not part of this application.
No, this is the side for an accessory building, the setback is okay. It's not an issue of the.
Right, so it's a matter of the height.
Right.
Okay.
So, that letter came from somebody over the backyard side, not the side yard. Is that
No,
correct?
sir. That's from my neighbor on the side yard who I share a 4 feet thicket.
So that's the neighbor east of you, is that correct?
I believe it's west of me. The neighbor
West.
east of me has a 6-foot fence.
I'm just trying to figure out the orientation here. So Franklin Boulevard, East Market Street. Okay, so Franklin Boulevard is, you are east of Franklin Boulevard?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the neighbor west of you, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so your garage is not taking their south sun away, it doesn't look like, correct?
No, and the garage was pre-existing. I tore it down. You might be able to see it. You might have, I'm not sure.
I'm paying attention to this garden that they're saying they're keeping, and I noticed that their south sun is still not affected by your garage. That's just a comment, okay?
Sun is usually overrated. It doesn't really actually hit the ground, but this is kind of an ugly structure, kind of planted right on the.
I wasn't going there. I'm just talking about the sun and the garden on my comment.
I'm talking about this big
aesthetics. Yeah, it's the aesthetics. I get it.
Backyard. I didn't see any compelling argument as to why it needed to make a two-story accessory.
I could see an interest in making it more architecturally appealing if it's going to be right in their face. Yeah, I could see that.
Well, it's the mass. It's the mass of the structure. It's
Mm-hmm. But it's also very, very. It looks like a dull, vinyl sided box. Also.
Again, I haven't seen a compelling argument as to why it needs to be 2 stories.
Storage. That was the point, right? Yeah. How high is it? Is a second floor? It's not potentially a livable space, right?
No. It'd be like that program, Small House.
Okay. Being John Malkovich.
Living in my garage.
Okay.
Well, we're speaking about whether it's 12 feet or whether it's 14 feet 9 inches. There's a 2 foot 9 inch variance that is being requested. Yep. 2 feet 9 inches, and the side yards are not impacted here. That's not what we're speaking about.
Yeah.
2 feet 9 inches is what we're speaking about.
Yeah. Well, the only objection is the height here. It's not about the setback.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. That's it. I mean, I think if your neighbor has an aesthetic issue with it, maybe you want to work with them to see if they like the color of the siding that you put in their side of the house. Or, I mean, I would think about that,
Well, the plan is to use barnwood and paint it and make the trim match the house.
Yeah. Okay.
You're 17 feet wide, so a parking space is what normally 9 feet wide. So you really have like 8 feet to the side of your car by the depth. It seems to me there's a lot of storage room there, and a smaller attic would still provide storage too.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is just as I crawl into my 4.5 foot basement or my 4.5 or 5 foot attic that I have currently. It just gets harder the older I get. So I was just hoping to stand to put some stuff in there. I would be easier just to manage it.
It would be a great storage space. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. I wouldn't mind it myself.
We all would like to have a lot of things, but unfortunately, in Long Beach, whatever we do and put impacts other people.
Have space. Space will afford. Yeah. All right. Okay. I have no further comments on my end.
All right. So we have the comment from the person against it. I understand, what they're concerned about. Is this something that someone wants to make a motion on, or, want to hold this over and think about it? It's up to you guys. I mean, I'm not going to make any motion. I want to see if somebody else wants to make a motion on the case.
I'm not going to make a good motion, so I'm not going to make a motion.
We can hold it over so that we speak about it.
Okay.
My only thing here is that whether it's 17 feet or 20 feet wide, that's not what's at issue. What's at issue is the height. So just for us to continue to consider that as we discuss this case.
Well, I think certainly everybody needs to make up their own decision, and we will certainly all think about it individually. And I think that what's going to happen is that, I think people will just kind of picture what the length of it would be times three. And I mean, we certainly can appreciate the necessity or the need of wanting this, but I personally just want to personally think about that neighbor's concern before I vote on it. I'm comfortable that the enlargement of it, because obviously it doesn't trigger a variance, is not a factor. And I think certainly, 3 feet doesn't sound like a whole lot to 9. And I certainly understand the applicant's desire to, have the space. It sounds like you're pretty cramped up with the way you are now. So we'd like to try to give you every opportunity we can to get that. I just want to, consider myself personally, the neighbor's objection. Maybe I'll drive around the neighborhood. I just want to take a look at that area.
And Mayor,
So,
maybe you, and maybe you want to talk to your neighbor about this too. Maybe there's some.
and you know what, if you want to, before the next meeting too, if you want to, have any kind of, letter, you want to send in a letter, or you just want to say that maybe you've spoken to your neighbor and, this is what I'm going to do. We'll certainly read it before the next meeting. I don't think there's necessarily an urgency unless you feel there is, to the applicant that, you got to get this done right away. I think that a month really wouldn't make much of a difference right now. There's probably not a lot of construction going on anyway. It's been kind of cold. So if you want to add anything to the record, we would certainly, want to read it before the next meeting. And at the same time, perhaps it would, put to rest anybody's concerns about, having you do this. Perhaps talk to the neighbor, and just, as you mentioned, you're gonna make it match the house. So just if you want to give us any material, we'll have a look at it, okay? Before we vote.
Could I just ask for clarification besides the letter?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk to the neighbor, maybe you can just put into the record, I discussed it with my neighbor and, I just let them know what I was going to do. Maybe they'll come back and say that they've eased their objections, and at the same time, this is not to say that when someone has an objection, that the board automatically is not going to grant it. I mean, we certainly weigh all the factors, and, we weigh your factor, we weigh their factors, and just because someone may not necessarily, like something, it doesn't mean that, we weigh certainly the detriment to, or the change to a character of a neighborhood. And sometimes, a garage, if it's done right, can enhance the value of the area next door because it looks nice, and it's not some beat up, old garage. So it sounds like if the garage that was there before was structurally not, in the best of shape, it probably would have been kind of dumpy looking to see. And now you're building something nice. It might actually be an improvement when they see it, so that's why if you just want to, give us a note as to whether or not you spoke further with them or not, that'd be great, just to have it in the file. Okay? Because it looks like nobody really is going to make a motion to vote on it tonight anyway. So at least we'll have a little more complete record, and maybe people feel more comfortable if they were going to vote in favor of it, that they weren't doing the wrong thing. Okay?
Thank you for your board's time.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Next case.
Case number 3193, application of James Monahan of 702 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.4C front yard, 9-105.4D side yard, 9-105.4F building area, for front and side additions and new decks at 702 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 3, Lot 50, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, the applicant or the architect is here tonight?
George, unmute your phone. Just waiting for George Bella to unmute.
Okay.
Ms. Watts, are you the homeowner?
No,
Oh, boy.
sorry, can you hear me?
You probably have something on in the background. Do you have something, do you have your TV on or?
Yeah, no, it was, okay. All right, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, are you the homeowner?
No, I'm the project manager representing GWB Architect.
Okay, all right.
All right, give us your name and address, please.
Okay. My name is Jennifer Watts from GWB Architect.
Hello.
We're at 120 West Park Avenue in Long Beach, New York, Suite 304. And I'm representing the Monahans. Jim and Gail are with us tonight. Tonight we are, good evening, everyone.
It's okay, good evening.
Sorry.
Why do you seem nervous tonight? Is it because it's late?
No, it's
All right, let's all take a deep breath now. We got plenty of time. We could be here all night if you want to. All right.
Bite your tongue.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm representing Jim and Gail Monahan. They're the owners of 702 West Park Avenue. We're seeking variances for an increase in building area, the front yard setback on the West Park Avenue side, and side yard setbacks in order to modestly renovate their retirement home. We just wanted to note that it's a corner property. It has 2 front yards. We're not seeking a variance for the front yard setback on the Grand Boulevard side, as noted on the denial letter. We're only seeking variances for the front yard on the West Park side. To be clear, we are proposing work on the Grand Boulevard side up to the property line, but it's only going to be for decking that's less than 18 inches. So that won't require a variance since it falls under the category of landscaping. For building area, the relief that we're seeking, we're proposing to add a total of 136 total square feet to the existing home. The existing home is 1,111 square feet. So that would make the total square footage of the home 1,247 square feet. So we're looking to increase the building area by about 5% from 57 to 62. We're seeking to add an addition in the northeast corner and as well as the northwest corner. For front yard setback on the Park Avenue side, we're looking for a 0-foot clearance from the property line. This would be for a small landing, which would have access to the front door. This also would be for front yard or setback for a reverse gable that would provide a covered entry, which we believe would enhance the aesthetics of the home, also functionally providing cover. And just to keep the house in the quaint feeling of the neighborhood. It's a unique neighborhood. The houses are small, and we just thought that this design would keep in alignment with that. Lastly, we're seeking relief for a side yard, which we've provided a minimal landing and steps from the interior living space that we're really just looking to go from the living space that we're making a small addition to get to a new outdoor area that they plan to put a table and chairs for barbecue and just have some exterior space. So really the design is really just, they're just looking for a little more space to make what they have a little more functional and just more efficient for the space that they have for both interior and outdoor space. These requests for variances, we believe they don't cause any undue harm. They don't have any negative impact on the surrounding areas, and it doesn't restrict any emergency equipment or access. They're only a 1-story, so, we wouldn't be taking away any solar rights or anything like that. And, we're respectfully requesting that the variants are granted. So with that, myself or the Monahans are here to answer any questions you might have.
All right.
Anything.
You know what? Let me see if I have any questions of you first, and
Okay.
we can turn it over to them if they want to then answer those questions. Okay, so let's look at the items on the variance, the denial letter of the applicant. So we've got basically on a new front yard on West Park of 0 feet. They're proposing a new front yard of 0 feet. So we have now 10 feet going to 0 feet on both corners, on both Park and on Grand Boulevard. So I'll ask Jennifer, the house is being expanded by how much on the corners?
In the northeast corner, about 71 square feet, so 70. So we're just following the lines of the existing front yard and side yard, or front yard and front yard, because it's a corner, so it has 2 fronts.
Right.
And so that existing line is 3 foot 1 1/4 from the property line that we're expanding. And they actually have an existing landing and steps right now that do come right up to the property line. So, essentially we're kind of looking to regain that space with this new landing. It's just reconfigured a little differently.
Okay, so you're not pushing out the entire house though that much, right?
No, it's just the existing setbacks currently. So we're just looking to square off that corner basically in that one side for new habitable space.
Okay, because that's what I wanted to make sure of, because again, looking at the drawings on A2, it looks like a nice project. And I mean, I know, the Monahans don't really have a whole lot to work with in terms of height. So any space that they're going to gain is going to have to come from the benefit of the sides. I'm looking at A3, the front north elevation, and I see what they've added on to the side of the house there. And I'm looking at the other elevation on the other side of the house, and I see where they're adding that does not go the entire length of that wall on either the Park side or the Grand side. Am I correct?
Right. Just if this, I'm sure you've already seen it, but the plot plan on T1.
Yes, yeah.
If you can see the hatched areas, I'm not sure if yours is in color or not, but
It is.
okay. If you see the 2 hatched areas in the blue diagonal where it says 71 square feet and 65 square feet, those are the 2 areas that we're looking to square off with the existing. So we're not looking to expand past the existing envelope.
Okay. What is that space going to just be? Just an enlargement of the existing rooms?
Yeah, so that front area, it's a, it's the main entryway, but they were just looking for another, they have the main, 1 living space. They were just looking for another area that, like a sitting room, reading room, there's a lot of light that comes in that corner. It's just kind of a nice space for that. So, yeah. And the other end of the house.
How long have they been, Swats, how long have they been in that house?
Since 2019, so for 2 years. Okay. But Gail has been, her family grew up here, so she's been coming here summers since she was a child. She's been coming to Long Beach. So, and they chose to retire here. So this is their, their forever home. So they're looking just for a little bit more space.
Yeah, I mean, it's not in light of most of the other stuff that we look at. It's not a very big home, in terms of its size. If there's no upstairs, I can understand why they'd want to grab a little room here and there on the sides. Do any members of the board have any questions?
No.
Does anybody, Robin, want to speak for or against? No? Okay, you know what? I'm going to move to grant.
Wait,
I'll second it.
Okay.
Hold on one second.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, it was frozen on my end. Can we just, who made the motion?
I made a motion to grant.
And who
And
seconded?
I second it.
Okay. Case number 3193, application of James Monahan of 702 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.4C front yard, 9-105.4D side yard, 9-105.4 building area for front and side addition, new decks at 702 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 3, lot 50 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Reffner,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted.
All right, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night now.
Case number 3194, application of Teresa and Anne Marie Boyle of 65 Virginia Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5E rear yard for a new rear yard storage shed at 65 Virginia Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 233, lot 47 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, is the applicant present?
They are, hold on. Let me see.
Yes.
Hi, we're here.
Okay, so let's talk about the storage shed. Give us your name and address, please.
Anne Marie Boyle, 65 Virginia Avenue, Long Beach, New York.
Okay, so you're putting a storage shed in the backyard. Do you have a garage back there, or this is
No,
just?
I wish.
Okay, yeah, I know. All right, so what's the dimension of the shed? Because
Oh,
basically,
the dimension. What's
yeah,
the dimension? Sorry, excuse me. Here's my husband.
it's all right. It's all right. I know it's late. Everybody's, kind of tired, I'll bet. So don't worry. Take your time. Don't be nervous. Hello, Mr. Boyle.
7 by 10.
Okay, 7 by 10. And how tall is it? Do you know? Not that it's an issue, really. I don't see.
7
So
foot
now
at the lowest and 9 feet at the highest.
Okay. So the rear yard, now allows for a rear yard of 4 feet. And you're proposing a new rear yard of 2 inches. Am I correct?
Well, yes, I have to.
That's because there's no other place that is able to accommodate the shed. Am I correct?
Yes, what happens is we bring all our stuff back there.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't have to explain. I know why you would need a shed. Don't worry.
Okay.
And I certainly would say that although the code allows for 4 feet, I don't know. I'm sorry, 1 second. My dog is rambunctious tonight. I have to say, I think that the code allows for 4 feet, requires 4 feet, and you're proposing 2 inches. Now, what's behind the yard where the shed would be? In other words, what is there? Is there a fence? Is there another yard? Is there no yard?
A 6-foot vinyl fence till our neighbor that has a raised house behind us.
Right. And do they have a garage that's against the backyard?
Oh, no, they have a garage in the front, which is
Okay.
the Mount
All right.
Avenue.
Well, in light of the fact that there's many garages that go right to the property line, I mean, that's where most garages in the backyard are. I'm not overly concerned about the fact that you're requiring a variance for a shed. It's not like you're building a building. Do any members of the board have any questions about this?
Does this exist already?
Yes.
It does. So this is maintaining a shed.
Yeah, your photographs show an existing shed, right? Are you changing it?
No, we're not changing it. It's very valuable to us to bring our stuff around there. I listened to all the meetings tonight. We don't have any parking or anything. And we're a family of 5 adults that bought this house in 2012. And it's very valuable to bring our bikes around there. We're not there all year round.
Has
You're
your
just-
neighbor
you're
had,
just
has
looking to
your neighbor
maintain
had
it.
any complaints? Any
Yes, we
complaints with
would
it?
just like to use it as we've been using it.
Does your next door neighbor have any complaints about it?
Well, not that we know of.
So they haven't complained to you?
Well, the person behind us is very agreeable. We spoke to her and she is the only person directly impacted that we know. And they're a young couple and they say they've no problem with us.
Okay.
Robin, is there anybody that wants to speak for or against this?
There are no hands raised.
Nobody?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry you're breaking up a little bit, the sound. I know there's something wrong with the sound. I'm going to move to grant.
Thank you.
Who's second?
I'll second it.
Is that you, Barry?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Case number 3194, application of Thomas and Anne Marie Boyle of 65 Virginia Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5E rear yard for a new rear yard storage shed at 65 Virginia Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 233, lot 47 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Alton has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This
Thank you
application-
very much.
You're welcome, folks.
You're welcome.
We
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Now we can park our bikes around the back. And we're not gonna-
It's okay.
Rocco, I don't know if I can go on any longer tonight.
Good night, folks.
Thank you very much.
It's quite all right.
We love Long Beach.
So do we. That's why we're here. Bye-bye.
I don't know if I can carry on any longer.
One more for the road. Come on, one more for the road.
Come on, listen, when we heard a case one time, we were here till 1:30 in the morning.
Oh yeah, we've done worse.
We were younger than Rocco.
We've done worse.
Yeah, but Rocco, we went out after that. We're not going out after this.
Yeah, come on, Rocco.
We didn't go out at
Let's go out
1:30 in
tonight.
the
Come on.
morning,
Let's go.
Robin.
Let's go.
Jeez.
All right, we're still live, folks. Let's be serious. Let's go.
Case
Next case.
3195, application of Edward Tuminelli of 120 Mitchell Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.6C front yard to extend the front deck at 120 Mitchell Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 199, lot 14 on the Nassau County Tax Map. Scott.
The tongue is tied.
Yeah. Ed, you need to unmute your phone, and Scott as well.
All right, Mr. Tuminelli, right? Tuminelli.
Tuminelli.
Okay, so I'm just curious, were you in front of the board for something else recently or no?
No. It was not.
Okay. All right. So basically, we're here for your new front yard. That's going to be 1 foot instead of the required 5. Now, why is that? Are you building a deck, or what's going to intrude onto that front yard space?
It's a 1930 Spanish style home with a cement terrace that is compromised from the rain and mold and everything, and just lack of space. It's a tiny terrace. Our family.
What's the lot? What's the lot size? Is it like a 40 by 50?
I think so. It's the smallest size there is. The lot is 40 by 57.
7, yeah. Oh, Mr. Cohen, you're here tonight, huh?
Yeah, well,
you took the red eye case tonight.
This is reminiscent of a year and a half ago, and I have a 57-page presentation for you with 8 by 10.
You know what, Scott? Tonight's not tonight. Okay. Did we get, not that we, did we get your address for the
No,
record?
you just cut me off and jumped right to my client. Scott Cohen of
We don't
council.
want to hear you. We know what you're gonna speak in favor of it. I mean,
Scott Cohen, but I will speak eloquently and.
you always do. You always do.
Scott Cohen, 30 West Park Avenue, Suite
Okay.
202, Long Beach, New York, of council.
Very good.
To Kenneth Apple.
Go ahead.
As Mr. Tuminelli said, we're looking to extend the front deck to within 1 foot of the property line. It will be a West End style deck, 1 foot to the line. The posts will be 3 foot cantilevered. The existing deck is roughly 7 by 10, 7 feet deep and 10 feet wide. The expanded deck will be 12.1 feet deep, and it will only be 17 feet long along Mitchell. So it's not going to run the entire length. It's just going to run from when the steps get up to that level, and it's not going to extend past the footprint of the house. So it's a minimal encroachment onto the front property line, and there only will be 2 posts upholding this. So there was not a lot that's going to be there. And other than that, there is going to be no other change to the existing home. Parking will still, there'll still be the garage. The garage may be reconfigured, but there will still be parking in that spot. And we're not doing any other work that would require a variance.
All right. Now looking at, the front elevation, it looks like it really does fall into harmony with the design of the house. I mean, those 30s homes, as Mr. Tuminelli said, Spanish style homes certainly have a lot of character, and sometimes people really can butcher up that character by some of the changes. But I think, this looks in harmony. I'd like to get, Barry's input on this, because I know Barry is, into, preserving the look.
No doubt, yeah.
And what's your thought, Barry, on this?
I think it is a very beautiful home.
Yeah.
I may have even inspected this once in my life for one of your neighbors, but anyway, it's more about the character. I don't really see the detail of what finishes you're having here. When you said West End style, I got a little afraid there on what that would look like.
Well, I just meant the dimensions of the
What we were hoping you weren't going to put a rooftop deck on.
Yeah.
This is one case where I'm not presenting a rooftop deck.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, we're not an architectural board here, but I just
No.
would like to hear what kind of aesthetics you're going to tie into this house. How long have you had the house for, Ed?
6 years now.
For 6 years. So I'm assuming you bought it because of I'm assuming the aesthetics did appeal to you when you bought it.
Oh yeah, it was pretty much done top to bottom and move in ready.
I mean the style of the house, being that it's one of these very, original Long Beach with a turret and everything going on there. And I can't see the finishes. I'm not reading into it right here. What are you going to do with this?
He's going to have to spend some money on that railing, because the railing, I think,
That's what I'm talking about, like that. Are you going to do a treated wood railing, or you actually seem to have some iron details in there? What is that?
We may carry through the wrought iron. We may just carry it through, mixing in some wood tones, some cedar wood tones. And as for the rooftop, we were thinking of like the metallics, copper type rooftop, corrugated. I think we're not going to do the. Not going to do the
tile.
No, the tile, but the corrugated metal would be very appealing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is nice.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Well, the main thing is that, a beautiful style home like that, I think, certainly what Commissioner Alton would say is that a beautiful style home like that you would want to keep that, because those kind of homes are almost historical. And, it just is a shame when they change the look of them from the original beauty that they had. But again, we're not an architectural review board. We're basically reviewing the case in terms of its zoning aspect. I mean, I think this is a case pretty much that we allow in general. I don't have any other comments. Do any members of the board have any comments? No. Robin, is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor or against?
No, we're the only ones left.
All right. So we're the last men standing, last women standing. I think I'm going to make a motion to grant this.
I'll second.
Okay.
Case number 3195, application of Edward Tuminelli of 120 Mitchell Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.6C front yard to extend the front deck at 120 Mitchell Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 199, lot 14 on the Nassau Land County tax map. I can't say that. Chairman
The last one, Robin. Come on.
Chairman Morelli is introduced to grant the application. Commissioner Reckner has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Oh, Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, Mr. Tuminelli. Good night, Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Cohen.
Take care, everyone.
All right. So this ends, Robin, there are no other matters, no other extensions or anything of that sort, correct?
No, now we go on to part B of the calendar.
Okay.
Good night and God
No,
bless.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
All right.
We're done.
Are we off,
guys.
Dave? Are we off? All right, folks,
Oh, not
listen,
yet.
thanks for everybody sitting through this tonight. I'm sorry it took so long. Just want to say good night. Everybody be safe and hope we're all still here next month.
Yes.
One more time,
Wow.
Eric.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
We will be.
Ladies.